Chapter 557. Sovereign, why don't we force the leaders of the central continent to return with us, or even let them join the Council of Light? Qin Wanqiu asked. Yang Dingtian shook his head. Before Green Lord Zhu is completely destroyed, they will not join the Council of Light, nor will they stand on our side. Qin Wanqiu naturally knew this. No matter what, Yang Dingtian was thousands of miles away from the central continent. And Green Lord Zhu was in the central continent. Although Green Lord Zhu's reputation had already hit rock bottom, and he was close to losing all standing and reputation. However, he still had 4 martial grandmasters and more than 10 martial grandmasters. His martial strength was unrivaled in the central continent. If the leaders of the central continent forces dared to join the Council of Light, Green Lord Zhu's experts would immediately arrive and use martial arts to clean up the sect. Therefore, before Green Lord Zhu was completely destroyed, all the forces in the central continent would only choose to sit on the fence. Don't forget that Song Xiao, Qin Wanqiu, and Qiu Wanjie had chosen sides repeatedly. It had taken Yang Dingtian a lot of effort. He had killed countless people and done countless things in order to achieve this. Qiu Wanjie said, they don't dare to join the Council of Light, but forcing them to come to the northwest continent is not a problem. This way, we can drive a wedge between them and Green Lord Zhu. Ha! Qin Wanqiu said, that's right, that's what I mean. It wasn't that Yang Dingtian hadn't thought of this method before. However, it wouldn't be easy. These martial grandmasters were all shrewd people, and they had already escaped without a trace. Of course, if all the experts in the West Continent were to move out and chase them back, then, should he persuade them nicely, or use force to threaten them? If he persuaded them nicely, they would definitely try their best to evade him. If he used force to threaten them, the gains would not make up for the losses, and their style would drop greatly. The most important thing was that Yang Dingtian wasn't in a hurry to subdue them. Before completely destroying Green Lord Zhu, all efforts to rope them in would be in vain. Therefore, Yang Dingtian shook his head and smiled, there's no need for that. Anyway, the central continent forces won't dare to be our enemy. Zhu Qingzhu probably won't be able to order them around anymore, so it doesn't matter whether or not he tries to sow discord. Song Chunhua said, that's right. Our goal in this battle is to protect the West and the Council of Light. Now, all of these goals have been accomplished, and we have won the hearts of the millions of soldiers in Central Plains. From now on, the Council of Light will become arrogant and reserved. We will no longer take the initiative to invite other forces. Instead, we will ask others to come and beg to join us. When Song Chunhua said this, she was extremely indignant. She was truly infuriated by Earth-splitting City, especially the Cloud Sky Pavilion. She would never have thought of such a thing. Previously, the Council of Light had been established with the greatest goal of protecting the Cloud Sky Pavilion. In order to protect the earth-shattering city and the Sky Cloud Pavilion, the entire western region had drawn the flames of war from Zhu Qingzhu onto themselves. In the end, not only were the earth-shattering city and the Sky Cloud Pavilion not grateful, one of them chose to stay out of the matter while the other chose to help the tyrant. Was there anything more ridiculous and shameless than this in the world? The western region's fleet would not completely retreat for the time being. They would continue to be stationed in this area and monitor the retreat of the Middle Plains army. Then, they would send out thousands of envoys to various parts of the chaotic world to spread the news of the battle. In the main hall of the flagship, all of the higher-ups of the Council of Light gathered to discuss the upcoming matters. Have the corpses of the Middle Plains army been fished out? Yang Dingtian asked. We've fished out a portion, about 40 to 50,000 corpses. Song Chunhua said, in the end, the corpses of the hundreds of Middle Plains experts killed by the ancient beast were all fished out. However, many of them are beyond recognition. In the end, the ancient beast Xiao Xiao had killed hundreds of them. How many of these experts were grandmasters? Yang Dingtian asked. 15. Song Chunhua said, 5 of them were sect leaders. 5 of them were elders of the Black Heaven sect. The remaining 5 were elders of the various sections. That's enough. Yang Dingtian said, these corpses are enough to bring back to the western region. Then, Yang Dingtian said, next, we'll discuss 3 matters. The first is to reorganize the western region. The second is to destroy Zhu Qingzhu. The third is to punish the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Instantly, everyone's faces were filled with shock. Yang Dingtian said, after this battle, there will be no more forces that can touch the western region. The Council of Light's prestige will be completely established. There is only one goal in reorganizing the western region. It's definitely not to fight for power or to have a second battle with Zhu Qingzhu. There is only one goal, and that is to prepare for the future doomsday battle. Qin Wanqiu glanced at Yang Dingtian. Although he didn't say anything, his meaning was clear. But the meaning was clear. Wasn't there no World Destroyer Legion? The Maori barbarians had clearly been buried in the ice and snow for tens of thousands of miles. Yang Dingtian said decisively, there will definitely be a Legion of Doom. Not only will there be tens of millions of Maori barbarians, but there will also be tens of millions of beast humans. There will even be an even more mysterious and powerful army. In short, this Legion of Doom will far surpass any in the past 1,000 years. Everyone was shocked. Yang Dingtian said, I don't know when the doomsday battle will start. Maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. However, the day the Demon King Wentian revives will be the day the doomsday battle starts. If the Legion of Doom continues to sweep through the world from the ocean of hell, then our western region will become the #1 battlefield. The moment these words came out, Qin Wanqiu's face became incomparably ugly. If the western region became the #1 battlefield, then his northwest Qin city would be completely ruined. The few cities that he had built with great difficulty would be completely destroyed. Yang Dingtian said, therefore, it is urgent to reorganize the western region. The first step is to divide the western region into a few defense zones. The northern defense zone covers the entire northern region and is under the responsibility of the World Association. The western defense zone, west of the Abyss border, including the White Cloud Peninsula and Autumn Water Island, is under the responsibility of Qin City. The southern defense zone covers the entire southwest continent and spans 5,000 miles. It is jointly under the responsibility of the Sky Phoenix Pavilion and the Wooden Sword Castle. The Sky Phoenix Pavilion is the main force and the Wooden Sword Castle is the auxiliary force. The southeastern defense zone covers the entire south of the Sunset Mountains and spans 2,000 miles and 3,000 miles. It is under the responsibility of the Divine Weapons Villa. The northeastern defense zone covers the north of the Sunset Mountains and is the former territory of Cloud Sky City. In addition, all the chaotic lands west of the swamp and south of the Hengshan Mountains are under the responsibility of Cloud Sky City. After Yang Dingtian finished speaking, everyone was stunned. No one was surprised about the other defense zones. The World Association still covered all of its territories. The northwest Qin City lost the southwest continent but gained Autumn Water Island and White Cloud Peninsula. Their direct territory area was 2,000 miles larger than before. As for the Divine Weapons Villa, their territory had more than doubled. It turned out that the Divine Weapons Villa only covered a little more than 1,000 miles. Now, the entire south of the Sunset Mountains, more than 3,000 miles, belonged to the Divine Weapons Villa. The most surprising thing was that Yang Dingtian had actually designated the Land of Chaos, which was close to 3,000 miles, as a defensive zone. Furthermore, this bone that was hard to chew was actually handed over to Cloud Heaven City. Yang Dingtian continued, the Sunset Mountains are not divided into any defense zones and are directly under the control of the Council of Light. Everyone nodded. Because the Sunset Mountains had a huge oil tree forest, it had become a strategic location. Yang Dingtian continued, next is the second step of the reorganization of the western region. Please speak, Sect Master, Qin Wanqiu said. Our western region has always had a lower status in the chaotic world. The eastern region is called the East Continent, and the central region is called the Central Continent. The western region is relatively chaotic and is divided into the Northwest Continent, the Southwest Continent, and the North. Yang Dingtian continued, in order to make the western region, the Central Continent, and the East Continent stand side by side, I suggest changing the name of the western region to the West Continent and West Continent City to West Capital. As soon as this was said, everyone present was excited and agreed. In fact, everyone in the western region had this idea. But before this, the western region was too weak and didn't have enough confidence to change the name. Now, with the prestige of a great victory, it was reasonable to change the name of the western region to the West Continent. From now on, the West Continent, Middle Continent, and East Continent would stand side by side and become the three poles of the world. Moreover, the center of the West Continent, the headquarters of the Council of Light, was located in West Capital. The Council of Light had the highest authority and all power in the entire West Continent. Yang Dingtian continued, next is the third step of the reorganization of the Western region, military reorganization. World Society, Northwest Qin City, Divine Weapons Villa, and Cloud Sky City, these four forces will send out 2 million elites to form the West Continent Army. Yang Dingtian continued, these 2 million elite troops will be directly under the command of the Council of Light. The Council of Light will directly send out various officers. From now on, whether it's World Society, Qin City, Cloud Sky City, or Divine Weapons Villa, they will have no command over these 2 million elite troops. As soon as this was said, everyone present was slightly shocked. Any objections? Yang Dingtian asked. Immediately, everyone shook their heads. Although some people had complicated feelings, they didn't have any objections. This was equivalent to handing over the highest authority of 2 million elites to Yang Dingtian and the Council of Light. It just so happened that Yang Dingtian was the least ambitious person and the one who didn't care about authority the most. Therefore, they were at ease. If it was handed over to Qin Wanqiu, Song Shao, or Qiu Wanjie, they wouldn't agree. These 2 million West Continent army will be divided into 10 legions, and the Council of Light will decide where they will be stationed. Yang Dingtian continued, in addition to these 2 million elite troops, we will also prepare 3 million second-line troops. These 3 million second-line troops will be prepared by the various defense zones. The command will also be given to the various defense zones, and their garrisons will also be within the respective defense zones. Yes. Everyone replied. Next is the fourth step of the reorganization of the Western region, eliminating the feudal lords. Yang Dingtian continued, when we return this time, we will use the momentum of our victory to eliminate all the feudal lords in the Western region. From now on, all the territories in the entire West Continent will belong to the Council of Light and the various defense zones. All the feudal lords will no longer have any territories. As soon as this was said, everyone's gaze trembled slightly. How many feudal lords were there in the entire Western region? There were at least a few thousand of them. More than half of them were under the rule of Qin City, Divine Weapons Villa, and World Society. There was also a small half of them that didn't belong to any power. As soon as Yang Dingtian said this, who knew how many heads fell to the ground, and how many powers were directly destroyed? Yang Dingtian continued, those who obey these feudal lords will be able to enter the Council of Light and take up positions in the various defense zones or the commanding officers of the various armies. Those who don't obey will either be killed or imprisoned. There must be no mercy. In short, the elimination of the feudal lords must be completed within half a year at the latest. The West Continent will send out 1 million troops to participate in the elimination of the feudal lords. Yes. Next is the fifth step of the reorganization of the Western region, establishing a new type of army. Yang Dingtian continued, there's nothing much to say about the cavalry. With the Devil Dragon army as the main force, close to 10,000 Devil Dragons will be able to move unhindered. With the addition of a few 100,000 cavalry troops, we can basically maintain the original state. As for the Air Force, it will still be the Earth-splitting city's 3,000 Devil Vulture Army as the main force, supplemented by the Flying Cavalry Army. There won't be many changes. The most important thing is the Navy. We must use all our forces to build ships, especially the large gunships and large submarines. Everyone has seen that the gunships and submarines this time are extremely powerful. I will give a direct order here, within 3 years. Our West Continent will build more than 800 gunships that are over 1,000 tons. More than 800 submarines that are over 500 tons. Furthermore, the submarines cannot be so simple and crude. We must solve the problems of underwater intelligence, precision of torpedoes, and underwater navigation. I can say that in the future war with the Legion of Doom, we won't have any advantage in terms of ground forces. But in terms of the Navy, we can have a strong advantage. The Legion of Doom has tens of millions of troops, but once we reach the sea, these numbers will be meaningless. Yang Dingtian said. Then, Yang Dingtian suddenly looked towards Qiu Wanjie and said, "Oh right, Manor Lord Qiu. We still need to form an aerial and ground-mounted archery unit, so we need your small crystal crossbow. We are about to dig out your lifeblood, is there a problem?" Qiu Wanjie's expression changed slightly, of course there's no problem. If it was before the war, even if Qiu Wanjie had broken off relations with Zhu Qingzhu, it would be impossible for him to hand over his lifeblood, the small crystal crossbow. But now, this great victory had truly frightened Qiu Wanjie. He had no choice but to hand over his lifeblood, the small crystal crossbow. Especially since the area of influence Yang Dingtian had given him was twice as big as before. The territories of the vassals that had to be cleaned up would mostly belong to him in the future. Good, within 3 years, I want 30,000 small crystal crossbows. Yang Dingtian said. Qiu Wanjie's face twitched, no problem. Yang Dingtian said, alright, that's all for the reorganization of the Western region. The reorganization of the Western region was divided into 5 steps. The first step was to divide the defense areas and let the Council of Light take over all the territories. The second step was to change the name of the Western region to the West Continent. The third step was to form the West Continent Army and consolidate military power. The fourth step was to clean up the vassals and dissidents. The fifth step was to build a large navy and mounted archery unit. Of course, these 5 steps weren't all proposed by Yang Dingtian alone. Before the war, Song Lihua and Tang Buzhao had come up with a 5-step plan. Only the 5th step was the idea of Yang Dingtian alone. Song Lihua and Tang Buzhao still didn't know much about submarines and cannons. Yang Dingtian said, alright, now let's talk about the second matter. How to eliminate Zhu Qingzhu. Regarding this matter, we need to listen to everyone's opinions. Purely in terms of martial arts, are we currently Zhu Qingzhu's match? Everyone shook their heads. Currently, Zhu Qingzhu was all alone. There was only the Black Heaven sect. The majority of the Middle Continent's forces were already at odds with him. But even if it was only the Black Heaven sect, even if the entire Western region's martial forces were gathered together, they still wouldn't be able to defeat him. Just the 4 martial grandmasters alone were enough to render the entire Western region helpless. But Zhu Qingzhu had to be eliminated. Qin Wanqiu thought for a while and said, as for eliminating Zhu Qingzhu, I can only say that if he colludes with the Vulture sect, we won't be able to do anything. If he doesn't collude with the Vulture sect, we still have a chance. So, first of all, we can't force him to collude with the Vulture sect, and we can't force him to join the Vulture sect. Yang Dingtian nodded. This was the most important point. Qin Wanqiu said, so, we need to numb Zhu Qingzhu. Next, we can't give him too much pressure. We can even use strategic deception. Yang Dingtian continued to nod. In terms of mutual deception, even 10 Yang Dingtians added together wouldn't be Qin Wanqiu's match. Qin Wanqiu continued, after we numb him completely with strategic deception. In order to regain his power in Middle Continent, Zhu Qingzhu will definitely make a move again. As long as he attacks again, we will have a chance to eliminate him. Of course, this time, it will undoubtedly be a battle between martial artists. In terms of martial strength, we need at least 5 martial grandmasters. We don't have that many martial grandmasters, Yang Dingtian said. At the moment, Yang Dingtian only had 3 martial grandmasters on his side. Dongfang Minmi, Qin Wanchou, and the human-shaped Xiao Xiao. Qin Wanchou said, so, we might need you to make a trip back to the Yinyang school. There are still 2 martial grandmasters there. Black Heaven Sect, Yinyang School, was one of the 3 great sects in the world. Black Heaven Sect had 4 martial grandmasters. Yinyang School wasn't the least bit inferior. Including Dongfang Minmi and Ling Qingchen, they had 4 martial grandmasters. So, even if these 2 weren't there, Yinyang School still had 2 martial grandmasters. Yang Dingtian muttered to himself and nodded slightly. Then it's settled. We'll use strategic deception to numb Zhu Qingzhu and lure him into attacking again. Once we have enough martial grandmasters, we'll eliminate them immediately. Yang Dingtian said, next, we'll punish the Cloud Sky Pavilion. When he said that, everyone present was indignant. Zhu Hongxue, who had never spoken, couldn't help but say, just destroy them. We don't need such a Cloud Sky Pavilion. Qin Wanchou smiled and said, Sect Master, I suggest that the punishment for the Cloud Sky Pavilion shouldn't be so simple. What do you mean? Yang Dingtian asked. Not only do we have to punish the Cloud Sky Pavilion, but we also have to get their sea monster army and their crystal warships. Imagine, if our large gunships, submarines, and even our torpedoes are equipped with their crystal warships, how powerful will their combat strength be? Qin Wanchou said. That's right. Why was the Cloud Sky Pavilion's navy the best in the world? Because they were equipped with the world's best crystal warships. In terms of crystal warships, the Divine Weapons Villa was the best in the world. As for crystal warships, the Cloud Sky Pavilion was definitely the best in the world. Because there were specializations in each field, these 2 sects had researched this for hundreds of years. Crystal warships and crystal warships looked very similar. They were both made of crystals. However, these 2 things were completely different. If they wanted to research it again, it would be extremely difficult. Just like the scientific research on Earth, it wasn't suddenly researched at all. It was the accumulation of hundreds of years. Once the submarines, torpedoes, and gunships were equipped with the crystal warships of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, how amazing would their combat strength be? It was completely unimaginable. The most direct manifestation was that the tonnage of warships could be increased several times, and they could be built into ironclad warships. The speed of warships, torpedoes, and submarines could also be doubled. Qin Wanchou said, not only do we have to get the crystal warships of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, but we also have to use the Cloud Sky Pavilion to lure Zhu Qingzhu out. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was stunned. How scheming was this Qin Wanchou? Zhu Hongxue only wanted to punish the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yang Dingtian wanted to get the crystal warships. Qin Wanchou, on the other hand, wanted to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. He even wanted to use the Cloud Sky Pavilion to lure Zhu Qingzhu out. Yang Dingtian thought for a long time, but he still didn't know how to organize these strategies. Uncle Master Qin, please continue. How do we accomplish this? Yang Dingtian asked. Qin Wanchou said, first, after we return to the west, you will use the momentum of your victory to visit the Earth-splitting city and the Cloud Sky Pavilion again. Yang Dingtian said, after I return to the northwest mainland and settle the relevant matters, I will immediately visit the Earth-splitting city and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Qin Wanchou said, after you go to the Earth-splitting city, you will first see if Kuei Si has been released. If not, you will use the name of the Council of Light to reorganize the Earth-splitting city, deal with the Elders Guild, and take over all the power in the Earth-splitting city. Then, you will visit the Cloud Sky Pavilion and interrogate Yun Kalin. Then, you will directly force Yun Janu to marry you and take her as your concubine. Yang Dingtian was stunned. But after that, Qin Wanchou refused to say anything else. He said that he would discuss it in detail with Yang Dingtian after returning to the west. 10 days later, Yang Dingtian's army returned to the northwest mainland in triumph, shocking the world. Chapter 558. Because they stayed on the sea for a few days and then returned to the northwest continent, they spent another 10 days. Therefore, when the army returned to Iron Furnace City, the news of victory had already spread throughout the entire western region. The entire western region was in a carnival for several days. That's right, the entire western region was in a carnival, including the countless people who had been calling for a ceasefire and were ready to surrender. After all, they were from the western region, and they had won. Most importantly, the war had ended. The flames of war did not affect them at all. Their lives were not affected at all. Of course, there were many people who had complicated emotions. They were the feudal lords who wanted to submit to Zhu Qingzhu. They had thought that Yang Dingtian would undoubtedly die in this naval battle. During the few days of the battle, they had been waiting at home every day, waiting for the Central Continent Army to come so that they could lead the way. In the end, the Central Continent Army did not come. Instead, they received news of Yang Dingtian's victory. Previously, they did not believe it. They thought that Yang Dingtian was lying and bragging. Following that, countless recording jades were sent over. In particular, Qin Huaiyu had gathered all the feudal lords and publicly displayed hundreds of recording jades in the city lord's mansion. There were scenes of the submarines ambushing the Central Continent Fleet. There were scenes of cannons bombarding the Central Continent Fleet. There were also scenes of the Central Continent Fleet's main force being burned. There were also scenes of the ancient giant beast soaring into the sky and slaughtering the leaders of the Central Continent, as well as Zhu Qingzhu escaping. Although the quality of the recording jades was not high, they still faithfully recorded all the scenes at that time. Yang Dingtian's victory was a foregone conclusion. Then, all the feudal lords fell into panic and unease. Especially the few feudal lords who had come to participate in the swearing-in ceremony in their funerals. They were completely terrified. They had humiliated Yang Dingtian because they thought that Yang Dingtian would undoubtedly die and lose this time. Who would have thought that he would actually win? More than 100,000 people against more than 8 million, and they had actually won. A few hundred small boats and more than 10,000 large ships had actually won. Moreover, it was a monstrous victory. The Central State Army, with a strength 100 times greater than theirs, suffered a humiliating defeat. They couldn't believe it even if they died, but the reality was right in front of them. Yang Dingtian had created an unprecedented miracle. The submarine invented by Yang Dingtian was so powerful. The most shocking thing was that Yang Dingtian actually had such a terrifying devil fire demon phoenix and also an ancient giant beast. With these two items, who in the world could do anything to Yang Dingtian? In the West, Yang Dingtian had truly become the supreme ruler. If he wanted to kill these small dukes, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. When Yang Dingtian and the others returned to the northwest continent, they had never expected to see such a scene. It was as if everyone had flocked to Iron Furnace City. There were at least a few million people, and the entire city was packed to the brim. The entire Iron Furnace City was filled with fluttering banners and cheers. And all the people with status in the West, all the dukes, and all the martial artists with a certain cultivation base were all crowded at the Piers Plaza to welcome them. To be honest, if Qin Huaiyu hadn't stopped them, this group of people would have already gone out to the sea to welcome them. When Yang Dingtian and the others had just stepped onto land from the ship, the entire pier and the wide road that extended into Iron Furnace City, countless people all knelt down. Welcome back, Sect Master, in triumph. As if they had been trained countless times, everyone shouted in unison. Sect Master Yang Dingtian, may you live a long life. The Council of Light, the vast world. The voices of hundreds of thousands of people resounded through the sky. Yang Dingtian immediately looked at Qin Huayu. Qin Huayu shook his head, indicating that all this wasn't organized by him. Even when hundreds of thousands of people knelt down, Qin Huayu didn't kneel down. Song Shao hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Qin Huayu didn't kneel down, he also didn't kneel down. At this time, those who knelt were all outsiders, while his own people stood ramrod straight. Yang Dingtian didn't like people kneeling. He and Qin Huayu and the others were life and death brothers. At this time, he and Song Shao were like-minded comrades who didn't care about seniority at all. Looking at the hundreds of thousands of people kneeling neatly on the ground, with only countless heads visible, Yang Dingtian frowned and said, "Get up." Immediately, everyone present stood up. Yang Dingtian didn't know how to act, nor would he go up and ask about these people's well-being. He only had a calm expression, neither close nor cold. However, there were still a dozen people who didn't get up. Yang Dingtian was able to tell that these people were the feudal vassals who wore the funeral attire during the swearing-in ceremony. These people were naked from the waist up, dripping with blood as they knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. Even more outrageous was that 3 of them were the sons of dukes. They directly held 3 heads and knelt on the ground in front of Yang Dingtian, not daring to get up. These 3 dukes were actually dead. Don't know if they committed suicide or were killed by their own family forces. In short, Yang Dingtian hadn't ordered punishment yet, and they were actually dead. Qin Huayu stepped forward and said in a low voice, hearing the news of Sect Master's great victory, one of them was so scared that his guts were torn apart and committed suicide. There were also 2 dukes whose clansmen were afraid of being implicated and directly killed the 2 of them, delivering their heads. Seeing Yang Dingtian approach, those dozen dukes kowtowed even more desperately, knocking their foreheads against the hard ground. Their faces were directly covered in blood as they cried bitterly. Sect Master treated us in the western region with great kindness. However, we were deranged, greedy for life and afraid of death, and actually disrespected Sect Master. We simply deserve 10,000 deaths for our crimes. We don't have the face to live in this world. We should commit suicide to apologize to the world. However, we were afraid that our suicide would tarnish Sect Master's benevolent name, so we didn't know whether to live or die. Today, Sect Master returned in triumph and defeated the traitor Zhu Qingzhu. We originally didn't have the face to come, but for such a great cause, even if we are despised by the masses, we still have to come and congratulate. After seeing Sect Master Wei Yan, we will immediately return home and quickly die. The leader of the dukes had rehearsed this sentence countless times. It was completely in cadence. When they were happy, they were incomparably passionate. When they were sad, they cried bitterly. Listening to it, it was completely touching. It had to be said that in any plane, in any era, the upper echelons were all experts in acting. They were all movie emperors. The Primal Chaos continent was no exception. Now, the one who was crying bitterly and reciting this sentence was undoubtedly the best acting among these dukes, which was why he was pushed out. However, these acting skills were useless in front of Yang Dingtian. These upper echelons were actors, but Yang Dingtian wasn't. In front of hundreds of thousands of people, he was too lazy to act, let alone a few dukes. Go back. Whether you die or not, we'll talk about it later. Yang Dingtian said. These words were obviously extremely cold, but the dukes seemed to have received a huge favor. They knelt down loudly and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master. We beasts are indescribably grateful and guilty." He shouted so loudly because he wanted everyone to hear that Yang Dingtian had forgiven them. This group of idiots, they still wanted to play tricks at this time. However, in the entire West continent, the strategy of purging the dukes had already been set. The Council of Light had directly mobilized 1 million troops to carry out the entire purge plan. In the face of such monstrous power, what use was there to play tricks? As for carrying out the entire purge plan, Yang Dingtian planned to hand it over to Qin Huaiyu, Song Chunhua, Duan Ruyan, and Chou Yiming. First of all, these four people represented four forces. Qin Huaiyu was smart and cunning, Song Chunhua was impartial, Duan Ruyan was cold and heartless, and Chou Yiming's thinking was simple. The four of them could make up for each other and complete the entire purge plan. Yang Dingtian considered letting Song Shao carry it out, but Song Shao was too extreme and ruthless. If he were to let him carry it out, the entire West Continent would be slaughtered until rivers of blood flowed. This purge would definitely result in deaths, and many, many deaths. However, Yang Dingtian still hoped that the number of deaths could be reduced as much as possible. In private, Yang Dingtian had already instructed Song Chunhua and Qin Huaiyu. In this purge of the dukes, it was best that the number of deaths did not exceed 100,000, the fewer the better. This number sounded like a lot, but the West Continent was too big. Yang Dingtian's policy was equivalent to directly depriving thousands of dukes of their territories and forces. There would definitely be people who would rebel. There were two areas of severe disaster here. One was the southwest continent, which was almost ownerless. The other was south of the Sunset Mountains, east of West Continent City. There were many independent dukes here. If not for the Doomsday Battle, Yang Dingtian would definitely not touch these dukes. However, for the Doomsday Battle, in order to consolidate the West Continent into a huge fist, Yang Dingtian had no choice but to do so. When returning to the city lord's residence in Yen City, Yang Dingtian wanted to directly fly back, ignoring the cheers of the citizens. Because before this, these people had all been in the camp of surrendering. In the end, it was Qin Wanchou who persuaded Yang Dingtian. He only said one sentence. "Sect Master, these citizens are sincerely supporting and worshipping you now. You can't give up on them just because they were once foolish. In the future, they will also become righteous and loyal citizens." Then, Yang Dingtian humbly accepted the advice. Along the way, he personally faced the cheers of countless citizens. Just like that, he returned to the headquarters of the Council of Light with incomparable difficulty. After returning to the headquarters of the Council of Light, without any false words, he directly announced that he would immediately establish a management team in the West Continent and prepare for the establishment of the West Continent. He would immediately establish 2 million West Continent soldiers. After 1 million elites were established, he would immediately begin the purge of the dukes. Moreover, the work of moving the Council of Light to the West capital would immediately begin. Of course, this work would take a long time and require incomparably complicated work, requiring tens of millions of dollars to operate. At present, the most important thing was to transfer tens of thousands of people to the headquarters of the Council of Light to be in charge of all affairs in the West Continent. Previously, the Council of Light only had less than 10 people at the highest level. The rest were still doing their own things. Even the affairs of the headquarters of the Council of Light were directly transferred over from Cloud Sky City by Yang Dingtian. Tang Buizhao and Song Lihua were in charge of all the administrative matters. They were so busy that they were about to die. Even this time, Tang Buizhao and Song Lihua did not have the time to go to the docks to welcome Yang Dingtian. In the long run, this would definitely not work. Therefore, a few forces immediately drew up a thick list of tens of thousands of people. Then, they immediately sent the winged cavalry to pick up the people directly. They immediately entered the civil officials group in the Council of Light and immediately started all the affairs in the West Continent. 10,000 civil officials might seem like a lot, but the West Continent was too big at that time. Organizing the affairs in the West Continent was incomparably complicated. Tens of thousands of civil officials carrying out these affairs was already extremely burdensome. As long as the power structure of the Council of Light was completely set up. Then, the next series of affairs, such as the division of defense areas, the establishment of the army, and the purge of the dukes, could all be carried out. The meeting lasted for an entire day and night. Hundreds of people at the headquarters of the Council of Light finally decided on all the specific affairs in the West Continent. The reorganization of the West Continent seemed to be only 5 steps. However, when it was refined, there were actually thousands of them. And each of them had many complicated affairs. Just the original herbal book alone had more than 100,000 words. By the time all the plans were detailed into a book, there would probably be a few million words, which would be as long as dozens of thick books. In the end, all the affairs in the West Continent would be carried out according to these detailed plans. Yang Dingtian originally thought that after the war, he would have little leisure time. However, he did not expect that he would enter the craziest busy period. Not only him, but almost all the members of the Council of Light did not even have the time to eat or drink tea 24 hours a day, let alone sleep. There were countless affairs that they had to deal with. Yang Dingtian had almost delegated all his power, but there were still countless affairs that required his final approval. Yang Dingtian did not understand most of these matters. He had never been a civil servant. Therefore, Yang Dingtian put all the political affairs aside. However, in the end, there were still countless documents that were sent to him for his final signature. Yang Dingtian said that there was no need for him to sign. As long as the highest level of the Council of Light approved it, it would be fine. Song Lihua said that these matters were too important and that the sect master had to sign them. Yang Dingtian said, "It's been almost 10 days, and I've already signed thousands of documents. Are these thousands of documents too important?" Song Chunhua nodded and said, "That's right, they're all important matters." Yang Dingtian doubted that there were so many important matters. Then, he casually took out a document and read it. This was a document about the construction of submarines, the relevant bases, materials, and so on. Then, he took out another document. This was about the garrison of the Southwest Continent, the defensive area of the Wooden Sword Castle, and the defensive area of the Sky Phoenix Pavilion. Then, he casually took out another document. This was about the construction of the extreme South City at the southernmost tip of the Southwest Continent and the establishment of the Southwest Fleet to garrison there. That's right, these were all important matters. Yang Dingtian finally took out a document. It was about the strategic deployment of kerosene, the garrison of the Sunset Mountains, and the establishment of the Sunset Mountains Production Corps. Song Lihua was right. These were all important matters. In any country, such important matters would require the signature of the highest commander. And now, there were thousands of such important matters. Thus, Yang Dingtian was completely trapped in the Council of Light headquarters. Every day, he would sign. Finally, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but ask, "Will there be so many things to do every day in the future?" Song Lihua smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's only so much at the beginning. Everything is difficult at the beginning. After these important matters are settled, you'll be free." "Then, when can I leave?" "I'm still in a hurry to go to Earth Fisher City and the Cloud Sky Pavilion." Yang Dingtian said. "There's no hurry." Song Chunhua said, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has already decided. Before the envoys from Earth Fisher City and the Cloud Sky Pavilion arrive, you definitely can't go to Earth Fisher City and the Cloud Sky Pavilion." "Then, have the envoys from these two forces arrived?" Yang Dingtian asked. "No." Song Lihua said. Yang Dingtian was surprised. It wasn't strange that the Cloud Sky Pavilion didn't come, but why hadn't the envoys from Earth Fisher City arrived? After the Council of Light's victory over Middle Ground, Earth Fisher City should have sent their envoys immediately. Although the Elders Guild of Earth Fisher City had betrayed the Council of Light, Kuei Ning still had the 3,000 Demon Vulture army. They were still Yang Dingtian's sworn brothers. However, there are many envoys from Middle Ground. There are already 48 of them. They are all here to congratulate the Council of Light on its establishment. Even more than 10 envoys from the East Continent came. Song Lihua said, "But these matters are too small to report to you." Yang Dingtian was stunned. Even the arrival of more than 10 envoys from Middle Ground was considered a small matter. Is there any news about Zhu Qingzhu? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes. Song Lihua said, Zhu Qingzhu returned to Black Heaven sect and vomited blood again. Then, he immediately went into seclusion and refused to see anyone. Then, the entire Black Heaven sect was placed under house arrest. Yang Dingtian asked, what's the current situation in Middle Ground? It's chaos. Song Lihua said, it's been more than a month since the battle in Middle Ground. After the 8 million soldiers from Middle Ground returned to Middle Ground, especially after the tens of thousands of captives we rescued set foot in Middle Ground. The Council of Light's fame has spread throughout Middle Ground. Your fame has also spread throughout Middle Ground. Zhu Qingzhu's reputation is very bad now. He's not far from being completely ruined. Now, many low-level martial artists have begun to discuss joining the Council of Light. The Black Cavalry of the Middle Ground Taekwondo League also doesn't dare to capture and kill people casually. The most obvious thing is that the arrest warrant for you and all of us in Middle Ground has been revoked. In fact, the real situation in Middle Ground was more complicated than what Song Lihua had said. It could be said that after the complete defeat of the Middle Ground army, especially after the 8 million defeated soldiers returned to Middle Ground, and the leaders of the several hundred forces returned to Middle Ground dejectedly, a huge wave was set off in Middle Ground for tens of thousands of miles. Yang Dingtian's reputation instantly reached the peak. It wasn't hostility, but worship. Especially the middle and low-level martial artists and the army. Their respect and worship for Yang Dingtian reached the peak in an instant. Originally, everyone was clear about the justice and evil between Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu. Now, Yang Dingtian had won a complete victory. Especially the scene of Yang Dingtian standing on the giant ancient beast that was thousands of feet tall, it was engraved in the hearts of countless people. That scene was too shocking. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had become a legend in Middle Ground at this time. They were about to praise him to the heavens, and they thought that he was a god. Now, countless people in Middle Ground were waiting for Yang Dingtian to become the supreme leader of the Council of Light. Of course, these were only the thoughts of the middle and low-level martial artists and the army. As for the high-level martial artists and the leaders of the various forces, although they had sent envoys to West Ground, they didn't make any sound. However, they themselves did not make any noise. They were absolutely silent about their defeat. They were still afraid of Zhu Qingzhu. Before Zhu Qingzhu was completely eliminated, they definitely wouldn't dare to make a public statement. After all, Yang Dingtian was too far away, and Zhu Qingzhu was in Middle Ground. Next, Yang Dingtian acted as a signing machine and worked crazily for close to 10 days. He had no idea how many documents he had signed. Each of these documents determined the fate of countless people. Once Yang Dingtian signed it, it would become the supreme order, and countless copies would be immediately sent to the entire West continent. Then, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people would revolve around this order. After a great victory, even the commoners would celebrate after a short period of celebration. Next, the entire West continent was completely busy. Countless troops were gathering and moving. Countless people traveled through the entire West continent and even the entire chaotic continent. Although the order to purge the feudal lords had not been publicly announced, hundreds of thousands of troops had already entered the southwest continent. They had already started to completely subdue and eliminate the local tyrants of the southwest continent. The location of the extreme south city had also been selected. Hundreds of thousands of people were continuously being transported there to prepare for the construction of a new city. As for the 4 large castles in the Sunset Mountain Range, construction had also started. Originally, there were hundreds of thousands of people in the Sunset Mountain Range. Now, nearly 1 million people had entered the Sunset Mountain Range and started to build all kinds of houses and villages in the mountain range. The hundreds of thousands of troops were carrying out the final cleanup and pacification of the barbarians in the Sunset Mountain Range. After busying about for more than half a month, the messenger from Earth-splitting city finally arrived with a letter written by Kuei Ning. It said that his father, Kuei Si, had already returned to Earth-splitting city. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. The lord of Earth-splitting city, Kuei Si, had returned? How did he return? Chapter 559. At that time, Wu Yuming had promised Earth-splitting city that as long as they withdrew from the central province battle and abandoned Yang Dingtian, he would do his best to save Kuei Si. So after the battle, Yang Dingtian had been waiting to see if Wu Yuming would fulfill his promise and if the vulture sect would release Kuei Si. He didn't think that Kuei Si would really return. The messenger from Earth-splitting city, other than delivering Kuei Ning's letter, had also sent many gifts to congratulate Yang Dingtian on his great victory. Yang Dingtian summoned Qin Wanqiu and handed him the letter. "Martial Uncle Qin, what do you think is going on with this letter?" Qin Wanqiu took it and frowned. "Kuei Si is back. The vulture sect released him. It should be." Yang Dingtian said, "But the situation is a bit strange. In this letter, Kuei Ning only said that his father had returned and congratulated us on our great victory. After that, he didn't say anything else. He is a comrade who has gone through life and death with me. Normally, after hearing the news of our great victory, he should have rushed to the northwest. But a full month after the battle, Earth-splitting city only sent a messenger here. This is very strange." Qin Wanqiu couldn't help but frown. "Do you think there is something wrong with Kuei Si? For example, he is on his last breath or unconscious?" Yang Dingtian asked. This was very possible. Wu Yuming had only said that he would try his best to save Kuei Si, but he didn't say that he would definitely save Kuei Si in one piece. "We can't rule out this possibility," Qin Wanqiu said, "but things might not be so simple. Little Tian, no matter if he is dead or alive, Wu Yuming sending Kuei Si back is a move against you." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "Martial Uncle Qin, you said that we should use the Cloud Sky Pavilion to bait Green Lord Zhu? How?" The original first step was to question and even bully the Cloud Sky Pavilion, forcing her to hand over the crystal power and forcing Yun Zhenu to be your concubine. Then, we would pull Earth-splitting city into the Council of Light. Qin Wanqiu said, "Now that Kuei Si is back, the plan might have to change." Yang Dingtian was puzzled. What's the reason for this? Sigh, this Kuei Si really came back at the wrong time. Qin Wanqiu suddenly sighed. Hearing this, Yang Dingtian frowned slightly, but he was relieved. Qin Wanqiu was such a person. Except for a few people, he basically didn't care about the life and death of others. "How about this? Tomorrow, I'll accompany you to the Earth-splitting city in the Sky Cloud Pavilion," Qin Wanqiu said. "You're going too?" Yang Dingtian asked in surprise. "Of course. If I don't go, who will be the matchmaker for you?" Qin Wanqiu said. Tomorrow morning, Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanqiu would go to Earth-splitting city and Yuntian. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. He could finally be free. After leaving Yen City and flying above the sea, Yang Dingtian heaved a long sigh of relief. He truly felt as though he had escaped from a cage. These 20 days, he had been a signing machine every day. It was really a nightmare. Especially every time Song Lihua sent over a document, Yang Dingtian would open it and sign it directly. In the end, Song Lihua's pretty face would immediately stiffen. Then, Yang Dingtian would have no choice but to carefully read every document before signing his name. Now, although Yang Dingtian was not as fearful as a tiger when he saw Song Lihua, he was a little afraid of her. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's expression was a lot more relaxed when he flipped through the documents now. That's all for today. Yang Dingtian glanced at the documents in Song Lihua's hands. There were probably only a few dozen of them. Song Lihua said, "Don't worry, these are basically the last important documents. At most, we'll check and fill in the gaps in the future. Oh right, when will your marriage with Qin Huayu be held? Yang Dingtian asked. Originally, I was planning to hold it after winning the war. Who knew that I would be so busy? Let's talk about it after a while. Song Lihua said. Yang Dingtian originally wanted to give her a day off so that the two of them could hold the marriage. But now, he really did not dare to say it. If he dared to say it, Song Lihua's face would definitely stiffen. This woman was purely a strong career woman. Once she had a career, the small matter of love and relationships would be long forgotten. Yang Dingtian continued to read the documents and then continued to sign. After Yang Dingtian finished signing, he stretched and said loudly, "Finally, it's all done." Song Lihua carefully checked every document to see if the places that needed to be signed had been signed. Furthermore, she checked if the handwriting was clear. Previously, Yang Dingtian had been sent back dozens of documents in a day. They said that the handwriting was too sloppy, and the documents had to be destroyed and re-signed. This caused Yang Dingtian to be completely focused when signing the documents. "Oh right, Sect Master, there's something that I didn't tell you before. No one dared to disturb you with such a small matter." Song Lihua said. "What's the matter?" Yang Dingtian asked. About half a month ago, Ling Wu, who was under house arrest, had mentioned that she wanted to see you. Song Lihua said, "No one dared to tell you. In the end, they reported it to me. I felt that this matter was not important. We were too busy, so I stopped them." "And, you did the right thing." Yang Dingtian said, "Is she still at her original place?" "Yes, then I'll go and do my work." After Song Lihua finished checking all the documents, her slim and delicate body carried the 2 feet thick documents and walked out. After signing countless documents, Yang Dingtian finally had some free time and came to the castle where Ling Wu was under house arrest. When Ling Zhong saw Ling Wu, he immediately wanted to kneel down. "Don't be like this, Uncle Ling." Yang Dingtian hurriedly went forward and helped him up. He said, "Uncle Ling, you're my senior. Please don't be like this." Ling Zhong seemed to have aged many years. He looked at Yang Dingtian's face with a complicated and painful expression. For a moment, he actually didn't know what to say. "Xiao Wu is inside," Ling Zhong said. "Uncle Ling, let's talk for a while first," Yang Dingtian said. "Sect Master, please don't address me that way. I'm just a commoner. Moreover, I'm a sinner. I'm definitely not worthy of being addressed like this." Ling Zhong bowed desperately. Yang Dingtian helped him up and sat him down on the stone bench. After that, he helped Ling Zhong to sit down as well. "Uncle Ling, you're not guilty. On the contrary, you've contributed to us. You've offered the entire Fire Island to the Council of Light. Therefore, you've contributed to our victory in this battle." Yang Dingtian said, "Moreover, Ling Wu isn't guilty either. Even though our submarine and fire oil tactics were leaked because of her, she didn't do it on purpose. She offended Sect Master," Ling Zhong said uneasily. "So what if I did? What kind of crime is offending me?" Yang Dingtian said in a self-mocking manner. I'm guilty, Ling Zhong said with a trembling voice. At this moment, he really seemed like a man whose spine had been broken. He didn't have the high spirits he had on Fire Island at all. Yang Dingtian sighed and patted his shoulder. He said, "I'll go see Ling Wu. She's in the attic at the top of the castle," Ling Zhong said. After arriving at the attic at the top of the castle, Yang Dingtian gently knocked on the door. "I don't want to go down." Ling Wu's cold and indifferent voice sounded from inside. "It's me," Yang Dingtian said. The inside immediately quieted down. After a moment, the door to the attic was opened. Compared to before, Ling Wu was much fairer. It had been a few months since she went out to sea. Therefore, Ling Wu's wheat-colored skin had already turned snow-white. Therefore, compared to before, she was a little less shrewish and a little more cold and elegant. At this moment, the entire attic was filled with silks and cloths. Ling Wu was sewing clothes. Moreover, she had already made many sets. Wooden poles were everywhere in the attic. Hundreds of sets of clothes were hung on them. There were men's clothes and women's clothes. Regardless of whether it was men or women's clothes, all of them were white. In fact, the clothes on her body were also white. Therefore, the current Ling Wu was like a completely different person compared to the Ling Wu he saw back then. Here, I wish City Lord Yang a great victory. You've once again created a miracle. Ling Wu said. Yang Dingtian said, half a month ago, you sent someone to look for me. What's the matter? The battle has already ended. You've created a miracle. You've already shown me your prowess. Ling Wu said, then what's next? Are you going to kill me? Or lock me up? There has to be an explanation. Previously, I placed you under house arrest because you have the departed ghost bird in your body. I was afraid that the secret would be leaked again. However, now that the battle is over, there's no need to place you under house arrest anymore. Yang Dingtian said, it's just that I've been too busy during this period of time. Everyone's very busy. I didn't have the time to deal with your matter. I apologize to you here. Please don't say that. Ling Wu said, you've already become the supreme in the universe after your great victory over Zhu Qingzhu. I'm just like an ant. My life and death isn't worth mentioning. Yang Dingtian wasn't used to such sarcastic and ridiculing words. He immediately fell into silence. If you want to kill me or lock me up, just say the word. This castle is bestowed by you. I don't want to stay here for even a day. I'd rather stay in the dungeon. Ling Wu said. You've regained your freedom. In a while, I'll withdraw all the people around the castle. Yang Dingtian said, also, this castle isn't bestowed by me. It's to compensate the Ling family for the loss of handing over Fire Island. It's your Ling families to begin with. I've regained my freedom, right? Ling Wu said. That's right. Yang Dingtian said. Then, can I leave the western region? Ling Wu said. Yang Dingtian slowly closed his eyes. Even though Ling Wu's relationship with him had already reached the freezing point, they were still related after all. Furthermore, many people believed that she was once Yang Dingtian's woman. Once she left the western region, if someone were to target Yang Dingtian, she would be in danger. Furthermore, if someone were to make use of her to do something to Yang Dingtian, what should she do? I advise you to not do that. Yang Dingtian said, after you leave the western region, I can't guarantee that you won't be in danger. That's my business. Ling Wu said, I don't want to stay in this land for even a day. After she finished speaking, Ling Wu opened her eyes wide and looked straight into Yang Dingtian's eyes. Her gaze was incomparably resolute and there wasn't the slightest bit of concession. Then, I'll go and discuss this with your father. Yang Dingtian said. There's no need to discuss. He can stay and enjoy the splendor and wealth. Ling Wu said, he has always advised me to bow and lower my head to you. Unfortunately, my waist is too hard and I can't bend. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I'll leave tonight. Why don't you just evaporate me at sea? You shouldn't talk about your father like that. After Yang Dingtian finished speaking, he immediately left the loft. Uncle Ling, Ling Wu wants to leave the western region. What are your plans? Yang Dingtian asked. I'm worried about her. Wherever she goes, I'll follow. Ling Zhong said, oh right, I've brought this castle and those contracts of the heavens and the earth. Please take them back. I don't want. Yang Dingtian suddenly roared fiercely. Immediately, a thunderous sound resounded within the castle. Ling Zhong immediately knelt on the ground. Yang Dingtian suppressed his anger and pulled Ling Zhong up. He said in a hoarse voice, "Uncle Ling, these castles and lands belong to you in the first place. They have nothing to do with me. Also." Yang Dingtian's lips trembled slightly as he said, "Ling Wu feels that the entire western region has become my territory. Therefore, she wants to leave and is unwilling to stay in my territory. However, this is her own doing and she can't tolerate herself. I'm protecting this land, but this doesn't mean that this land belongs to me. On the contrary, this land belongs to all of you. Of course, it's fine to leave me. However, to leave your own land, isn't it a little too? Uncle Ling, you're originally the Lord of Inferno Island. I originally wanted you to contribute to the western region. However, it seems that I can't do it now." Yang Dingtian continued, "Also, this is your own land. If it wasn't because I'm unable to leave and have to protect this land, Ling Wu wouldn't leave. I'll leave and distance myself from her so as to prevent her from feeling uncomfortable. Because this is your own land. However, I have to protect this land. Therefore, I'm unable to leave. Farewell." Yang Dingtian then left. That night, Ling Wu bought a large ship and loaded all the clothes she made onto the ship. After that, she and Ling Zhong boarded the ship and left the western region, heading towards the central region. She placed the contracts of the castles and the lands on the table. What she took away were merely the few hundred sets of clothes that Ling Wu sewed. Early the next morning, Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanqiu rode on the Devil Vulture King and Devil Spirit Ray respectively and flew towards the Fisher City. Coincidentally, they saw Ling Wu's ship heading towards the central region on the way. At this moment, she was standing on the ship with her eyes closed. It was as though the sea breeze was blowing from the east. What did this action mean? Was it to embrace freedom? Yang Dingtian's Devil Vulture King was very fast. It left Ling Wu's ship far behind. Ling Wu didn't realize that Yang Dingtian had flown over her head. In the battle between men and women, the more wrong a woman is, the more she won't turn back. She'll walk the same path to the end. Qin Wanqiu suddenly said. Yang Dingtian didn't say anything. Instead, he asked suddenly, "Where's Zhou Ruhan?" "I don't know." Qin Wanqiu said. After that, he fell into silence. After that, the two of them flew towards the Fisher City in silence. 10 hours later, the two of them landed in the Fisher City. This time, it was Kuei Ning who came out to welcome them. Furthermore, the etiquette wasn't as exaggerated as the previous time. Previously, the Fisher City had almost turned out in full force. This time, it was still Kuei Ning's 600 Devil Vulture army who stood in formation to welcome them. After meeting Yang Dingtian, Kuei Ning went forward and gave him a big hug. "City Lord, such a crazy victory, I'm really happy." Kuei Ning said excitedly, "I missed such a great moment. It's really a lifelong regret. I also thought that you were here. On my flagship, your chair was still there." Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Then, he asked, "Has your father returned?" Yang Dingtian went straight to the point. Kuei Ning's expression changed slightly. Then, she nodded and said, "Yes, he has returned." "How is your father?" Yang Dingtian asked, "Is he injured?" "He's fine. There's nothing serious." Kuei Ning said. "That's good. I'll go pay him a visit." Yang Dingtian said. Kuei Ning said, "He's not in the Fisher City now." "Not here." Yang Dingtian asked, "Where did he go?" "He went to the Cloud Sky Pavilion." Kuei Ning said. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "I understand." Kuei Si had really returned, and she was not seriously injured. She was not on the verge of death, nor unconscious. She had returned in one piece. What kind of trick was Wu Yuming playing? However, Yang Dingtian knew what Kuei Si's appearance at the Cloud Sky Pavilion meant. He had gone to support Yun Kailan. He clearly knew that Yang Dingtian would definitely punish Yun Kalen. And Yun Kalen was his lover. No matter what, he would support Yun Kalen. That's good. I'm also going to the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yang Dingtian said, then I won't enter the Fisher City. I'll go to the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Okay, I'll go with you. Kuei Ning said. Give City Lord Qin a demon eagle. The three of us will ride it to the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yang Dingtian said. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's rule was that demon eagles were not allowed to enter. Yang Dingtian and the others were riding demon eagles. It was obvious that they had ill intentions. Is this okay? Kuei Ning said. That's fine. Yang Dingtian said. Yes. Kuei Ning said. Then, the three of them rode demon eagles and flew directly to the Cloud Sky Pavilion. When they flew to the border of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, Kuei Ning suddenly said, City Lord Yang, I'll always be on your side. I firmly believe that no matter what you do, it's for the good of the world. Yang Dingtian was slightly taken aback. Of course, he knew that Kuei Ning had always been on his side. However, why would he say such words at this time? This time, when Yang Dingtian entered the Cloud Sky Pavilion's territory again, he met with a huge lineup. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's first elder led all the elders out. They rode white cranes to welcome him. Although the etiquette was formal, everyone looked cold. There was no smile on their faces. In fact, they were filled with hostility. City Lord Yang, my pavilion master has been waiting for a long time, Yun Juna said. Then, he led the way to the Cloud Sky Pavilion at the peak of the snow mountain. At this time, Qin Wancho's eyes were filled with coldness. Then, he looked at Yang Dingtian. Previously, they had discussed that Qin Wancho would be in charge of all operations in the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Qin Wancho would also be in charge of everything. This time, they were here to blackmail him. In terms of cunning, even Yang Dingtian could not compare to Qin Wancho. After landing in the Cloud Sky Pavilion, the three of them landed. The pavilion master is waiting for you inside, Yun Juna said. I'll go and report it. Wait. Qin Wancho said coldly. Don't you even know the etiquette? Cloud Sky Pavilion Master, why don't you come and greet sect leader Yang Dingtian personally? Yun Juna looked at Yang Dingtian. You. Don't you go too far. Qin Wancho said coldly. Today, we represent the Tiando League and the Council of Light. Immediately ask Yun Kalen to come and greet us. Otherwise, we will leave immediately. You will bear all the consequences. Chapter 560. After Qin Wancho spoke, the entire place fell silent. That's right. I was the one who sent the sea demons to help Zhu Qingzhu, Yun Juna said. Mr. Yang Dingtian, if you want to punish me, please do it. Then, she stood on the snowy ground, motionless. Who do you think you are? Qin Wancho said coldly. The Cloud Sky Pavilion is helping the evildoer. I want to punish the entire Cloud Sky Pavilion. Can you represent the entire Cloud Sky Pavilion? Yun Juna was about to speak when Qin Wancho said, my faction leader is kind and benevolent. I, Qin Wancho, am cruel and merciless. You have a dirty face and thin lips. It's easy for you to say that. Punish you? Who do you think you are? Get out of my way. Instantly, Qin Wancho's power burst forth and suppressed all the experts present. Then, Qin Wancho said coldly, Yun Kalen, I will count to 3. If you don't come out to welcome faction leader Yang Dingtian, then the Cloud Sky Pavilion will no longer exist. Then, there will be no need for the Cloud Sky Pavilion to exist. Bang! All of a sudden, the door of the Great Hall ahead was violently pushed open. Yun Kalen stared coldly at Yang Dingtian. Faction leader Yang, are you here to denounce me? Did Qin Wanqiu mean that he wants to destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion? The Cloud Sky Pavilion leader, Yun Kailin, walked out slowly. Behind her was a skinny and handsome middle-aged man. It was Kue Si. Although his face was pale, it was as Kue Ning had said. He was fine. Mr. Yang Dingtian, when I asked Qin Wanqiu, can I represent your orders? Yun Kailin said. Think carefully before you answer me. Yes. Yang Dingtian said calmly. You said that you want to destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion? Yun Kailin stared at Yang Dingtian. She emphasized every word as if she wanted to overwhelm Yang Dingtian. If there is a need, Yang Dingtian said. You can try. Yun Kailin said coldly. Yang Dingtian frowned and turned around. Faction leader Qin, let's go. Prepare for battle. Annihilate the Cloud Sky Pavilion. He was really fucking shameless. He was completely unreasonable. The Cloud Sky Pavilion had betrayed Yang Dingtian and helped the tyrant. They had joined forces with Zhu Qingzhu to attack Yang Dingtian. At this moment, Zhu Qingzhu had suffered a crushing defeat. Not only did Yun Kailin not show any guilt or worry, but her attitude was even more tyrannical. Could it be that as a woman, she could be so ignorant? At this moment, even though Yang Dingtian was threatening them verbally, he really did want to destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yang Dingtian and the other two rode on the Demon Eagle and were about to leave. Even Kue Ning, after glancing at Kue Si, also got on the Demonic Eagle and left. City Lord Yang, please wait. Suddenly, Kue Si shouted. Yang Dingtian was indebted to Kue Si, so once he opened his mouth, Yang Dingtian had no choice but to stop. After getting off the Demonic Eagle, Yang Dingtian bowed to Kue Si and said, Yang Dingtian greets martial uncle Kue Si. Kue Si leaned to the side and avoided Yang Dingtian's bow. He then returned the bow. Earth-splitting cities Kue Si greets City Lord Yang Dingtian. Qin Wanqiu frowned. This group of people kept calling him City Lord Yang and not Faction Leader Yang. Senior brother Qin, how have you been? Kue Si bowed to Qin Wanqiu and smiled. Thanks to you, I'm doing well. Qin Wanqiu said. Kue Si said, Junior Sister Kailin offended the Western world and shouldn't have helped the tyrant. However, since the two of you are here today, I believe you aren't really here to fight. Otherwise, it wouldn't be just the two of you, but an army of 1,000,000. Qin Wanqiu said, that's because we're giving brother Kue Si face. Therefore, the two of us are here to seek justice for the Council of Light. If we can't get justice, then an army of 1,000,000 will come. It's good that you're here. Everyone is of the same mind. There's nothing we can't talk about. Kue Si said, both of you, please. Qin Wanqiu said, Pavilion Lord Yun Kailin, you haven't bowed to my faction leader yet. You don't even know the etiquette. How can we continue the discussion? Kue Si smiled. Junior Sister Kailin, even if a guest is here, you still have to bow. Yun Kailin was indignant. He gritted his teeth and bowed to Yang Dingtian. Cloud Sky Pavilion's Yun Kailin greets the two city lords. Qin Wanqiu's face was filled with anger, but he sneered in his heart. Yun Kailin's attitude couldn't be better. Please. Kue Si smiled. Although Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanqiu were dissatisfied with Yun Kailin, they still had to give Kue Si face and entered the main hall. Young lady Yun Zhenu, you come in too. Qin Wanqiu suddenly said. Kue Si said, alright, there are no outsiders here. If there's anything, let's talk about it. Yang Dingtian smiled. Martial Uncle Kue, back then at the Tiando League headquarters, Yang Dingtian is extremely grateful to you for speaking up for justice. Yang Dingtian stood up and bowed to Kue Si. I did it for myself. Kue Si said, Zhu Qingzhu has been coveting Earth-splitting city and Cloud Sky Pavilion for a long time. Moreover, you chose to go to war with Zhu Qingzhu for our earth-splitting city and cloud sky pavilion. That's why our two families were able to survive. I should be the one thanking you for your kindness. Brother Kuei Ning and 1,000 demon vulture warriors have always fought alongside me. I see them as my life and death brothers. Therefore, protecting Earth-splitting city is also protecting ourselves. There's no need to talk about gratitude. Yang Dingtian said, "Oh right, that day when we left Eastern Cloud State, who ambushed Martial Uncle Kuei? I don't know, but there were 3 masters and 1 great master. I couldn't handle them." Kuei Si said, "It should be someone from the evil ways. I'm really happy that Martial Uncle Kuei has returned safely." Yang Dingtian said. "Thank you, City Lord Yang. I really have to thank young Master Wu Yuming for my safe return. It was because of him that I was able to return safely. City Lord Wu Yuming is really a man of his words. You're unparalleled in righteousness." Kuei Si said. Yang Dingtian was not good at acting. Hearing him praise Wu Yuming. Although he did not directly say that Kuei Si was captured by the Vulture sect, he was definitely not willing to go along with Kuei Si and praise Wu Yuming. "Alright, we can talk about our matters at home." Kuei Si said, "Next, let's talk about Cloud Sky Pavilion." Cloud Sky Pavilion was bewitched by Zhu Qingzhu and did something wrong. They must be punished and made up for. City Lord Yang, tell me, how should we punish them? Junior Sister Kaylin, you can publicly apologize and give a portion of your ships to the Western Navy. Kuei Si listed out the punishment conditions. Yun Kaylin would publicly apologize and give a portion of his ships to the Western Navy. Brother Kuei Si, its sect leader Yang Dingtian, hidden sect leader Yang Dingtian, not Cloud Sky City Lord Yang Dingtian, Qin Wancho reminded coldly. Kuei Si smiled and said, "Senior brother Qin, let's get straight to the point. Please tell me how you want to punish them." Qin Wancho's expression was cold and serious as he stared at Yun Kaylin. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Qin Wancho laughed loudly. Punishment is not the goal. Preventing Cloud Sky Pavilion from going down the wrong path is the goal. Turning Cloud Sky Pavilion onto the path of righteousness is the goal. When he said this, Yun Kaylin was stunned. Qin Wancho looked like he was going to condemn him, but he actually said something so casual. "Yes, senior brother Qin is indeed a broad-minded person," Kuei Si said. "How about this, to answer to the Council of Light, to answer to the world, to let Cloud Sky Pavilion return to the path of righteousness, I will arrange a beautiful marriage for Cloud Sky Pavilion. How about that?" Qin Wancho said. When he said this, Yun Kaylin and Kuei Si were even more shocked and confused. Yun Kaylin finally could not help but say, "Marriage? Cloud Sky Pavilion does not have a marriageable woman or a marriageable man." Qin Wancho pointed at Yun Zhenu and said, "Miss Yun is a natural beauty with a precious bloodline. Isn't she a marriageable woman?" Yun Zhenu was instantly stunned and looked at Qin Wancho in disbelief. Yun Kaylin and Kuei Si were also stunned. After Kuei Si recovered from her shock, she smiled and said, "Senior brother Qin's son, Qin Huayu, is indeed a dragon among men. He and Zhenu are indeed a match made in heaven. However, for such a beautiful thing, it is still up to Zhenu's own opinion. I will spend the rest of my life alone and will not marry," Yun Zhenu said lightly. "No, not my little dog," Qin Wancho said. "How can my Qin Huayu be worthy of Miss Yun Zhenu?" Yun Kaylin was confused and said, "Then, who else could it be?" "Far away on the horizon, but close at hand," Qin Wancho said. "It is my sect leader, the world's #1 hero, who is worthy of Miss Yun Zhenu's beauty." When he said this, everyone was shocked. Kuei Si, Yun Kaylin, and Yun Zhenu were shocked at first. Then, they were extremely angry and suddenly soared into the sky. Even Yang Dingtian had a strange feeling in his heart. However, he had handed everything over to Qin Wancho today, so he had to be thick-skinned and listen to these words. If I didn't remember wrongly, City Lord Yang Dingtian is already married, Yun Kalin said coldly. That's right. Sect leader Yang has already married. Therefore, Miss Yun Zhenu will marry him as a co-wife, just like my daughter, Qin Wancho said. What co-wife? Just a concubine. Yang Dingtian, you are too much. Yun Kalin was furious and shouted at Yang Dingtian, you are blinded by lust. You want to marry my daughter? Wishful thinking. At this moment, Yun Zhenu was staring at Yang Dingtian with a pair of big eyes. She was in disbelief. Qin Wancho looked at Yun Zhenu and said, Miss Yun, what is your attitude? Yun Zhenu looked at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, Yang Dingtian, I don't know why you stopped me from marrying Lingxi. I also don't know if I have any relationship with the woman you are talking about. But I am telling you now, regardless of whether I have any relationship with the woman you are talking about, I will never, ever marry you. If you want me to marry you, you can take a corpse back with you if I am dead. Then, Yun Zhenu continued, that's right. I helped Zhu Qingzhu to attack you. I have offended you. But you can kill me or torture me as you wish. You want me to sell my body and live in humiliation? Dream on. Finally, Yun Zhenu pursed her lips and said disdainfully, I won't even marry Lingxi. Why would I marry you? Qin Wancho acted as if he did not hear her and said, other than Miss Yun Zhenu marrying my faction leader as co-wife, the Cloud Sky Pavilion must join the Council of Light. All troops and martial artists must accept the reorganization of the Council of Light and hand over the Crystal Demon Fleet and the Crystal Stone Power. Yun Kalin's expression changed when she heard the conditions. Bang! She slammed her palm on the stone couch beside her and shattered it into pieces. Wishful thinking. You have gone too far. Yun Kalin shouted. Yang Dingtian, you are shameless. If it were not for the guest rule, I would not let you walk out of this hall today. Get lost. Qin Wancho looked at Yun Kalin and said coldly, Pavilion leader Yun, think carefully. It's easy for us to leave the Cloud Sky Pavilion, but the next time we come back, we will bring an army of millions. Come on, I would rather die than live in dishonor. Yun Kalin shouted. Come on, Yun Kalin, will never surrender. Goodbye. Qin Wancho stood up. Goodbye. Yang Dingtian stood up. Send the guest off. Yun Kalin said, burn all the couches that Yang Dingtian sat on, destroy all the stone slabs that he walked on, and burn everything that he touched. I feel disgusted. Kuei Si's face was pale as he sat on the ground. Yang Dingtian and Qin Wancho flicked their sleeves and left. Although Yang Dingtian knew that Qin Wancho's forced marriage was fake and that it was a strategic blackmail, he was still angered by Yun Kalin's attitude. Walking out of the hall, Yang Dingtian and the other two were about to get on the demon vulture. Hold on. Yun Zhenu suddenly said, Yang Dingtian, I have a few words that I wish to speak with you. After that, she turned and walked away. What do you want to say? Yang Dingtian asked. I don't know who this Dugu Fengwu is. But now, I completely understand why she left you. Yun Zhenu said indifferently, I feel sorry for your wife. She actually met a man like you. Yang Dingtian asked, is this what you want to say to me? Also, I might not be married to Lingxi, but don't forget that we are sworn siblings. Yun Zhenu said indifferently, if you want to make a move on my Cloud Sky Pavilion, you can see if the Vulture sect will sit by and do nothing. Immediately after, Yun Zhenu left. Yang Dingtian returned to Qin Wancho's side and said to him and Kuei Ning, let's go. Immediately after, the three of them rode on the demon vulture and flew towards the northwest. Not long after, Yun Zhenu rode on a demon spirit ray and flew towards the vulture sect in the east. After leaving the Cloud Sky Pavilion's territory, Kuei Ning finally spoke, City Lord Yang, Yun Zhenu is still considered my sister. I know. Yang Dingtian said. I feel that it is better for both parties to be willing, Kuei Ning said. Alright, don't say any more. Qin Wanqiu said, Kuei Ning, you should be clear about the sect master's character. Therefore, you should choose to believe him. That is the most reasonable and correct choice. Yes. Kuei Ning said, but her expression turned complicated. Qin Wanqiu and Yang Dingtian left the Cloud Sky Pavilion and didn't stop at the Earth Fisher City. They returned to the northwest continent. When Yang Dingtian was leaving, Kuei Ning suddenly said, City Lord, if you are attacking other factions, my Demon Vulture army will follow your lead. But if you are attacking the Cloud Sky Pavilion, I think it will be hard for the Earth Fisher City's Demon Vulture army to participate. After all, Marshal Aunt Kai Lin is my father's woman. She is also another senior to me. Yang Dingtian patted her shoulder and didn't say anything. He also didn't stop at the Earth Fisher City and returned to the northwest continent. From the beginning to the end, Yang Dingtian and Kuei Si didn't mention anything about the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. After returning to the northwest continent, Yang Dingtian immediately issued a decree to reprimand the Cloud Sky Pavilion for helping the evildoers. He also announced that the Council of Light would punish the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Immediately after, the West Continent gathered a large army. All the ships, submarines, tens of thousands of air forces, and 5,000 demon dragon army were gathered at the seaside. Suddenly, the situation that had been peaceful for more than a month was filled with war clouds again. Chapter 561. In just a few days, the West Continent had gathered hundreds of thousands of troops. Many people had even seen ancient beasts swimming in the ocean. The Sky Cloud Pavilion retracted all their fleets as if they were facing a great enemy. They also started to build defensive lines in the Southern Ocean City, the only city in the Sky Cloud Pavilion that had flat land. Nearly 20,000 Snow Lion soldiers descended from the Sky Cloud Plateau and entered the Southern Ocean City. The entire Sky Cloud Plateau also started to gather as countless troops entered the Southern Ocean City. The Earth Shatter City Lord publicly announced that the Earth Shatter City would not allow any forces or troops to attack the Sky Cloud Pavilion through the airspace and territory of the Earth Shatter City. He did not even want any forces to invade the entire Yingzhou continent. After that, Prince Lingxi of the Vulture sect visited the Sky Cloud Pavilion again. He also announced that he would not allow any forces to invade the Sky Cloud Pavilion. When necessary, the Vulture sect would interfere. Lingxi's announcement was like a huge rock crashing into the surface of a lake, causing huge waves. This showed that the Vulture sect was protecting the Sky Cloud Pavilion. With the protection of the Vulture sect, any forces that wanted to touch the Sky Cloud Pavilion would have to think twice before doing so, as the consequences would be severe. After receiving the affirmation from the Vulture sect, Yun Kailan was emboldened and publicly announced that Yang Dingtian had set up the Council of Light to split the Tiando League. The Sky Cloud Pavilion helping him was not morally wrong, and it was a righteous act. Everyone had the right to punish traitors. If Yang Dingtian led the Western continent to invade the Middle continent, it would be evidence that Yang Dingtian was trying to usurp the authority of the entire Tiando League. This was the first time the Sky Cloud Pavilion had openly expressed their stance. Attacking Yang Dingtian for setting up the Council of Light was setting up another Tiando League, and it was a crime to split the country. The Sky Cloud Pavilion helping Zhu Qingzhu against Yang Dingtian was not wrong, and it was a righteous act. The fact that Yang Dingtian dared to invade the Sky Cloud Pavilion was another proof of Yang Dingtian's ambition. After Yun Kailan's announcement, the entire Middle Continent, and even the entire world, was in an uproar. Everyone was waiting for another great battle to break out. Especially in the Western world, Yang Dingtian had already lost count of how many battle requests he had received. All kinds of submarines, torpedoes, and artillery shells were madly manufactured in the Western region. At the same time, the Council of Light army of the entire West Continent, consisting of a total of 2 million elites, had been fully formed. Originally, it was just a strategic blackmail. However, Yun Kailan's complete fallout with him and his attacks and slander of Yang Dingtian had forced the entire West Continent to shoot. If they allowed Yun Kailan to attack them like this, it would be difficult for the Council of Light to back down. At this time, the Council of Light Command Department had been completely established. These 2 million troops were directly under the command of the Council of Light. There were only 4 people in the High Command: Qin Wanqiu, Song Chunhua, Qiu Wanjie, and Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian had the highest veto power. Even Song Shao, Qin Huaiyu, and Duan Ruyan were not members of the High Command Department, let alone Shimen Lai. However, Qin Huaiyu, Duan Ruyan, Shimen Lai, and the others were the highest commanders of the Council of Light Army. Each of them commanded more than 200,000 troops. The Council of Light had undergone some changes. The original 6 permanent members were Yang Dingtian, Qin Wanqiu, Qiu Wanjie, Song Chunhua, Duan Ruyan, and Li Guinong. Now, there were a few more ordinary members, namely Song Shao, Qin Huaiyu, Song Lihua, Zhu Hongxue, and Tang Buizhao. Therefore, these 12 people were the most powerful members of the entire West Continent's 30,000 territories, hundreds of millions of citizens, hundreds of thousands of martial artists, and millions of soldiers. The arrow is already on the bow, and it has to be shot. Attack! Song Shao had always been very extreme. Attack! The Cloud Sky Pavilion is more shameless than the Black Heaven sect. Zhu Hongxue was also a straightforward person. Yun Kailan had committed a grave mistake and suffered a great defeat. Not only did he not personally come to the Western world to admit his guilt and apologize, his attitude was even more tyrannical. Now, with the support of the Vulture sect, he was actually attacking Yang Dingtian to split the Tiando League and slandering Yang Dingtian. Moreover, he had also started to gather his troops and was ready to fight at any time. Attack! Qiu Wanjie said, not to mention the Cloud Sky Pavilion's current attitude, they should be punished for helping Zhu Qingzhu that day. Otherwise, where is the dignity of the Council of Light? Let me say a few words, Song Lihua suddenly said. I don't know anything about military affairs, and I won't express my opinions. However, the entire West Continent is in the midst of reorganization, and the most important thing is to clean up the feudal vassals. This is the most important thing to the West Continent, much more important than attacking the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Moreover, there can't be any mistakes. We have to put in all our effort to complete it. Once we start a war with the outside world, it will be easy for internal chaos to occur. If we want to attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion, I suggest that we do it after the internal reorganization of the West Continent. I have the same opinion, Tang Buizhao said. Attacking the Cloud Sky Pavilion is a matter of pride. Now that we are reorganizing the West Continent and moving the West capital, everything is extremely important to us. Every day is extremely precious. Duan Ruyan said, I'm a straightforward person. When I see Yun Kailan and listen to her, I want to fight. However, you all know that part of our navy has already moved to the southwest continent. The construction of the southernmost city in the southwest continent has also begun. There are already 300,000 soldiers in the southwest continent, and they have already started to clean up the feudal vassals and bandits. I will obey any orders from the Council of Light, but personally, I don't want to see the cleanup of the southwest continent stop halfway. Yang Dingtian looked at Qin Wanqiu. The entire strategic blackmail plan was proposed by him, so he believed that he had a well-thought-out plan. Qin Wanqiu said, the strategic blackmail to bully the Cloud Sky Pavilion was planned by me and carried out by me. Although Yun Kailan's fierce attitude is somewhat out of our expectations, the overall situation has not changed. This plan can still be carried out. As for the so-called blackmail, we might as well make it more realistic and more intense. What do you mean? Yang Dingtian asked. The army should set off immediately and begin to seal off the Cloud Sky Pavilion's defense line. Let the ancient giant beast start to approach the Cloud Sky Pavilion's territorial waters, Qin Wanqiu said. If we don't prepare to fight, what will happen if we accidentally fire? Song Chunhua said, Yun Kailin has a fierce personality. If she starts a war, we won't be fully prepared. Moreover, the cleansing of the feudal vassals has already begun. I'm worried that there will be serious consequences. Therefore, I suggest that we attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion with all our might, or reorganize the West Continent with all our might. Song Chunhua's opinion was that she did not agree with Qin Wancho's strategic blackmail plan and was unwilling to take the risk. She was an upright and selfless person. She always liked to be open and aboveboard, and disliked conspiracies. Once Song Chunhua's attitude was expressed, everyone had to face her squarely. Currently, the second-in-command of the Council of Light was definitely Qin Wancho. However, in many people's hearts, the third-in-command was not Song Shao or Qiu Wanjie, but Song Chunhua. Although her cultivation was not as high as Song Shao and Duan Ruyan, her character was charming and upright. Many people could not help but trust her. Finally, everyone's gaze turned to Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian said, I'm very lacking in strategizing. Therefore, I'm also not very clear about the pros and cons of taking the risk of strategic blackmail. However, I do know one thing. Once a matter is decided, do not give up halfway. Changing orders all the time is a big taboo. Therefore, continue with this strategic blackmail plan. I believe that all of us here will be able to bear the consequences. Yes. After Yang Dingtian made the final decision, no one had any objections and stopped arguing about this matter. Qin Wancho could not help but heave a sigh of relief. The so-called strategic blackmail was, after all, a conspiracy. If it was a conspiracy, then there would be successes and failures. Now, it was as if Yun Kailin had stepped on someone's tail. He had really forced Qin Wancho into a corner. Therefore, his strategic blackmail plan might really have wasted all his previous efforts. At this moment, Qin Wancho could see clearly that Yang Dingtian's strategizing was average, and his methods were even more average. His political skills were also very shallow, and he did not have the skills of a ruler at all. However, this person was broad-minded, far-sighted, and determined. Just these 3 points alone were enough. In particular, his selflessness was worthy of everyone's trust. After the strategic blackmail plan was set, the entire West Continent immediately went into action. Zhongzhou's fleet of more than 200,000 soldiers set off once again. Together with the winged cavalry troops, they started to completely seal off the Sky Cloud Pavilion sea route. Moreover, the ancient beast had come within 1,000 miles of the Sky Cloud Pavilion sea many times. There were a few times when it had set off huge waves, causing people to tremble in fear. At the most tense moment, the ancient beast had directly destroyed 3 of the Sky Cloud Pavilion's warships in the Sky Cloud Pavilion sea region. Instantly, Yun Kailin was furious. Then, he publicly announced that Yang Dingtian was a sinful and ambitious person, and that he was the culprit behind the breakup of the Tiando League. Furthermore, he sent out his own crystal warships to the Western Sea region. Once they saw any warships from the West Continent, they would mercilessly sink them. Yun Kailin did as he said. His crystal warships appeared and disappeared unpredictably, sinking almost 10 merchant ships from the West Continent. Yang Dingtian's fleet approached once again. The submarine troops also started to hunt down the crystal warships of the Sky Cloud Pavilion. Although the two sides did not directly engage in battle, there were countless small battles and conflicts in private. Despite the constant conflicts with the Sky Cloud Pavilion, the reorganization of the West Continent did not stop. Duan Ruyan and Li Guanong led the southern army and started to clear out the entire southwest continent. As for the 1 million soldiers, the cleansing operation of the feudal lords in the West Continent had also begun. As expected, these feudal lords were extremely fearful of Yang Dingtian. However, when they wanted to clear out their territories, they were still met with a violent counterattack. About half of the feudal lords obediently handed over their territories, took the money that the Council of Light had used to purchase their territories, and received the shares of the Council of Light's bank. After that, they would either enter the army or take up positions in other regions or cities. However, there were still a small number of feudal lords who directly started an armed rebellion. There were thousands of feudal lords in the West Continent. Even if a small number of them rebelled, there were still close to 1 million armed forces. Instantly, the entire West Continent was filled with smoke. The 1 million elites that the Council of Light had prepared in advance immediately went to deal with the situation. Although the rebellious feudal lords were powerful, they were of no use in front of the absolute power of the Council of Light. The anti-rebellion troops led by Qin Huaiyu and Song Shao were like a hot knife through butter. They cleared out 50 kilometers in a day. Of course, Yang Dingtian wanted to start a land revolution in the entire West Continent and hand over all the land to the ordinary people. However, there was no doubt that this was impossible. This would infringe on the huge interests of Qin Wanqiu, Song Shao, and Qiu Wanjie. Therefore, Yang Dingtian made some concessions. After clearing out the feudal lords, he distributed most of the land to the landless people. However, these people had to pay taxes to the various defense forces. Meanwhile, within the territories of Qin City, World Society, and Divine Weapons Villa, they also liberated the slaves and made them free people. Moreover, they let the major forces contract these lands to the free people for farming. 55% of it was handed over to Qin City, World Society, and Divine Weapons Villa. This proportion was undoubtedly very large. If it was on modern Earth, people would scold them to death. However, in the chaotic world, those who farmed were all slaves. They worked every day but had nothing. They ate whatever their master gave them and had no property. Now, giving them 45% of the profits was already a great benefit. Of course, Qin City, World Society, and Divine Weapons Villa could only keep a portion of the profits for themselves. The other portion would be handed over to the Council of Light to be used to raise the army. In short, the Council of Light's West Continent was in chaos. Outside, there were conflicts and skirmishes every day. Inside, there was smoke everywhere and battles were everywhere. Therefore, the Cloud Sky Pavilion took the opportunity to attack Yang Dingtian. They were cruel, bloodthirsty, and warlike. Moreover, they began to call on all the dukes, people, martial artists, and armies of the West Continent to rise up and resist Yang Dingtian's tyranny. Previously, when planning the strategic blackmail, Qin Wanqiu knew very well that Yun Cailin would definitely be angry. However, he didn't expect her to react so violently and crazily. In the past, when Zhu Qing wanted to destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion, why weren't you so arrogant? With the Vulture sect as your backing, why were you so fearless? Seeing that the West Continent was in chaos, the worship of Yang Dingtian in the Middle Continent gradually quieted down. The leaders of the forces in the Middle Continent gradually began to have different opinions and doubts about the West Continent's Council of Light and Yang Dingtian. In short, the situation was getting worse and worse. The entire West Continent and the Cloud Sky Pavilion were on the verge of war. However, the strategic turning point that Qin Wanqiu wanted to see still didn't appear. If it didn't appear, then the West Continent would have no other choice. They could either start a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion and become enemies with the Vulture sect. Or they could completely cease all activities. There was news that the Vulture sect's Black Vulture army had begun to leave the southern barbarian continent. Once they started a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion, the ancient giant beasts couldn't go on land. To attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion, they had to rely on their air force. Of course, there was also the Devil Dragon army that could climb mountains as if they were walking on flat ground. The Devil Vulture army had already left. Because of Kuei Si, Fisher City would definitely stand on the side of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Therefore, it was impossible for Yang Dingtian to have any air force. He could only use the Devil Dragon army to attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Of course, if the Vulture sect didn't mobilize the Black Vulture army, then the Devil Dragon army could still fight. However, once the Black Vulture army was mobilized, the West Continent, which had no air force, was basically doomed. Therefore, the entire Council of Light and the entire West Continent's doubts about Qin Wanchou's strategic blackmail plan were getting louder and louder. Even Qin Huaiyu had looked for young Ding Tian and told him not to support Qin Wanchou because of his identity. If necessary, he could cancel this strategic blackmail plan. However, young Ding Tian only had one attitude, and that was to continue. If the conflict reached a certain level, then they would directly start a war. Even if the Vulture sect's Black Vulture army participated in the war. At most, they would attack the Cloud Sky Plateau. They would directly turn the Cloud Sky Pavilion's only city, Southern Ocean City, into ruins. Then, they would block all the exits of the Cloud Sky Pavilion and completely seal them off. Under Yang Dingtian's absolute insistence, all the objections to Qin Wanchou temporarily stopped. Actually, Yang Dingtian didn't know whether his insistence was right or not. Was it good or bad? However, he only knew that he shouldn't doubt the people he used. Once he started a plan, he had to stick to it. Anyway, even if the plan failed, he could still bear the consequences of starting a war. However, the pressure on Qin Wanchou was unprecedentedly great. If it was any other city or any other power, he would have directly used his army to push over and destroy it. However, the Cloud Sky Pavilion was on a plateau thousands of meters high. There was no road at all. They could only rely on air forces. The strange thing was that the West Continent didn't have an air force. Fisher City was already on the opposite side. Therefore, Qin Wanchou couldn't sleep night after night. In the end, he couldn't hold on any longer. He personally came to Yang Dingtian and told him that if Yang Dingtian announced that he was giving up on this strategic blackmail plan, he would fully understand and support it. Then, he would formally admit his mistake and apologize to the Council of Light. Yang Dingtian's attitude didn't change at all. If he persisted, once the conflict reached an irreconcilable point, he would directly start a war. Even if it meant starting a war with the Vulture sect earlier, he wouldn't hesitate. At this time, Yang Dingtian was gambling. He was gambling that the Vulture sect wouldn't start a war with Yang Dingtian at this time. Firstly, it was still neutral. Secondly, Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu hadn't both died yet. The Vulture sect and the Sea of Gloom wouldn't jump out. Once they did, their superior status would immediately disappear. Then, time passed day by day. The counterinsurgency operation in the West Continent was still in full swing. The cleanup of the Southwest Army was almost halfway done. The Southern Fleet had also begun to station themselves in the Southwest Continent. The foundation of the southernmost city had also been built. It was also at this moment that a huge piece of bad news arrived. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's crystal warships had traveled thousands of miles and ambushed the Southwest Continent. They sank 13 ships of the Southern Fleet and used crystal crossbows to kill thousands of ground troops. Then, they left freely. When this news reached the headquarters of the Council of Light in Iron Furnace City, Qin Wanchou slumped in his seat, his face pale. After a long time, he said in a trembling voice, "Sect leader, let's stop the strategic blackmail plan. Let's start a full-scale war. I will resign from my position as a permanent member of the Council of Light. I will even resign from my position as the Supreme Commander of the Western Defense District." Then, the entire headquarters of the Council of Light fell into silence. No one had expected Yun Kalin to be so crazy, bold, and intense. If she was so capable, why didn't she ambush Zhu Qingzhu? Of course, although Zhu Qingzhu was plotting against the Cloud Sky Pavilion, he had never said it out loud or trampled on her face. He only said that the Cloud Sky Pavilion and Kuei Si had supported Yang Dingtian, so he wanted to punish them. When they were face to face, Zhu Qingzhu was always polite to Yun Kalin. But when Yang Dingtian trampled on her face, her reaction was so intense. It seemed that a woman's face could never be touched. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's fleet had ambushed the Southwest Continent and sunk a dozen warships, killing thousands of people. As a result, the conflict had reached its peak. It was impossible to not start a war. Although the internal cleansing and reconstruction had been going on. But Yun Kailan had forced Yang Dingtian into a corner. But once the war started, it would mean Qin Wanchou's failure, and he would have to bear the responsibility. No, we won't start a war, Yang Dingtian said directly. At this time, perhaps the strategic blackmail will turn around. But if we don't start a war, Qin Wanchou said. The Council of Light will be bullied by the Cloud Sky Pavilion and lose its prestige. It will be a fatal blow to our Council of Light. We choose to start a war without declaring war. Yang Dingtian said. I will send out the ancient behemoth to destroy Nanning City's pier, killing 3 times the number of people and silencing 10 times the number of warships. Yang Dingtian did not declare war. That night, he directly sent out the ancient behemoth to destroy Nanning City's pier. All the warships docked at the pier were destroyed, and everyone on the pier was killed. Then, the ancient behemoth fled far away. After returning to Iron Furnace City, Yang Dingtian did not give up. He immediately ordered, is the largest 10,000-kilogram bomb ready? I am going to throw it on Yun Kailan's head. Then, Yang Dingtian said to Qin Wanchou, wait for 5 more days. If there is no change in the situation within 5 days, immediately start a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Even if we have to fight with the Vulture sect, we will not hesitate. At night, Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanchou. The 2 of them rode on the Demon Vulture King and flew towards the Cloud Sky Pavilion under the cover of the night, carrying a super bomb that weighed over 10,000 pounds. The Demon Vulture King was extremely powerful. It was 2 to 3 times the size of the other demon vultures, carrying more than 10,000 pounds. However, it was difficult to fly at top speed while carrying a bomb that weighed over 10,000 pounds. And every 3,000 miles, it had to float in the sea and rest for a while. It also had to be fed with the best crystals to recover its energy. Just like that, Yang Dingtian took a long detour and entered the Cloud Sky Pavilion's territory from the south. This way, they had to fly more than 20,000 miles. After a full day and 2 nights, Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu rode on the Demon Vulture King and flew into the Cloud Sky Pavilion with a huge bomb that weighed over 10,000 pounds. Because they were flying at an altitude of more than 10,000 meters, and in the dark night. Moreover, the Cloud Sky Pavilion knew that Yang Dingtian did not have any air force, so there was almost no defense in the air. Yang Dingtian flew to the Cloud Sky Pavilion's headquarters almost effortlessly. Below was a huge snow mountain, and at the peak of the snow mountain were the 1,000 houses of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's headquarters was on the highest mountain. They flew to the sky above the Cloud Sky Pavilion's headquarters hall. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian threw down the bomb that weighed over 10,000 pounds. Chapter 562. At this time, in the middle of the night, the entire Cloud Sky Pavilion was asleep and did not have any defense against the sky. Moreover, this was the top of the snow mountain. It could snow almost every day, and there would be a sea breeze whistling every day. The flying snow and the whistling wind completely covered the sound of the huge bomb falling. Whoosh! In this way, the bomb weighing more than 10,000 pounds fell from the sky. It smashed into the many houses of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Boom! Then, there was an earth-shattering explosion. More than 10,000 pounds of explosives were packed with nearly 10,000 pounds of high explosives and special energy crystals. The energy burst out of the sudden explosion was extremely shocking. The huge fireball burst out at the top of the mountain could be seen from 100 miles away. It was as if a huge torch was lit at the top of the snow mountain. Then, all the pavilions within a few hundred meters were blown up. The main hall of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, which was only a few dozen meters away from the explosion point, was instantly blown to pieces. Hundreds of houses seemed to have turned into a pile of ruins in an instant. After the explosion, hundreds of people flew out of the Cloud Sky Pavilion's houses and rushed into the air. These were all experts of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. After the explosion, except for a few people who screamed, all of them flew into the air to look for the murderer. However, after Yang Dingtian threw the bomb, he directly rode the Demon Eagle King and flew away at full speed at a speed of more than 1,000 miles per hour. These people flew into the air after the explosion. How could they catch up with him? Of course, it was not that Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanqiu were afraid of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yang Dingtian was a 4-star 9th grade Grandmaster, and Qin Wanqiu was a Great Grandmaster. The two of them together did not fear any expert of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. The main thing was that Yang Dingtian could not be seen by others. He, the supreme leader of the Council of Light, personally threw the bomb. Of course, some people might say, why not directly send Grandmasters and Grandmasters to capture Yuncalan? Just as Zhu Qing wanted to follow the rules, Yang Dingtian also wanted to follow the rules. Even if Yang Dingtian and the Cloud Sky Pavilion were to go to war, it would at most be a civil war. Therefore, the two armies had to confront each other openly and send two great masters to capture Yuncalan directly. If that happened, Yang Dingtian's reputation would be ruined. Was it possible to have a direct martial arts duel? Of course, he could just issue a martial Dao challenge. In the past, Yang Dingtian could assassinate. However, after he became the Lord of Cloud Sky City, he couldn't play around anymore, especially after he became the Lord of the Council of Light. Then, when could he be executed without announcing it, and without teaching it? Evil ways. When you are sure that someone is a martial arts expert, you can directly eliminate them. Hundreds of Cloud Sky Pavilion experts rushed into the air and discovered that their enemies were already hundreds of miles away. Furthermore, they were getting further and further away. They immediately chased after them like crazy. Below, a huge hole seemed to have been dug in the middle of the magnificent Cloud Sky Pavilion. The most central and core part had been completely reduced to ruins. For nearly 1,000 years, the Cloud Sky Pavilion at the top of the snowy mountain had never been attacked. Today, it was as if it had been destroyed. The Cloud Sky Pavilion experts immediately chased after them madly. At this moment, a strange sound suddenly came from the top of the snowy mountain. Everyone looked down in shock. Then, they suddenly saw countless accumulated snow at the top of the snowy mountain suddenly sweep down. An avalanche. After countless years of accumulated snow, an avalanche directly occurred after the powerful explosion. Countless accumulated snow kept sliding down and rolling down. More and more, and more and more, and in the end, it became an incomparably huge force that overturned rivers and seas, as if it covered the sky and covered the earth as it swept down. Everywhere it passed, all the buildings were crushed and buried. Therefore, everyone was shocked to see that the magnificent buildings at the top of the snowy mountain for dozens of miles were all buried by the accumulated snow and turned into ruins. All the accumulated snow on the mountain, which was thousands of meters high, eventually turned into a destructive force that rushed down the mountain. Boom, 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 boom. The entire mountain was shaking, and the entire sky seemed to have changed color. Following that, even the Cloud Sky Plateau within 100 miles was shaken violently. The Cloud Sky Pavilion experts were completely stunned when they saw this scene. The Cloud Sky Pavilion, which had not been attacked for 1,000 years, was completely buried and destroyed by the snowstorm. Fortunately, most of the Cloud Sky Pavilion martial artists were guarding the northern and southern borders. Otherwise, who knew how many people would have died tonight? Nearly half of the Cloud Sky Pavilion martial artists would have died. Of course, even so, there were still many casualties. Yang Dingtian, who was far away, was also completely stunned when he saw this scene. He had thought that the explosion at the top of the snowy mountain would cause an avalanche. However, he did not expect the avalanche to be so powerful. It was almost 100 times more powerful than the explosion. More than 12 hours later, Yang Dingtian returned to Ironforge City in the northwest continent. Several hours later, Yang Dingtian felt Yun Kailan's monstrous anger. She used the most vicious words to attack the Council of Light and Yang Dingtian. Previously, she only said that Yang Dingtian had split the Tiando League. Now, she directly said that Yang Dingtian had brought the ancient evil beasts to battle. It was completely done by evil ways. Yang Dingtian was evil and unorthodox. Everyone had the right to punish him. Moreover, Yun Kailan directly expressed her condolences to Zhu Qingzhu. It was said that in the war against the unorthodox path, a single defeat was nothing. A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. Therefore, she asked Zhu Qingzhu to pull himself together and gather all the martial arts forces in Zhongzhou again to deal a devastating blow to Yang Dingtian's Council of Light. She also called on all the righteous forces in Zhongzhou and the chaotic continent to go all out against Yang Dingtian and the West continent. Of course, Yun Kailan's cries for blood did not receive any response. Even Zhu Qingzhu did not make a sound. As for the other factions in the central province, they had long been terror-stricken by Yang Dingtian. They were afraid that Yang Dingtian would come looking for them and wanted to capture the entire Cloud Sky Pavilion and beat them up while forgetting them. This outcome couldn't be any better. Do you think I'm retarded if I jump out to attract more hatred? Yun Kailan searched all over the world and did not receive any response. He was furious. He sent out the crystal warships to attack everything in the West continent. They did not care about civilians or military forces. Every time they attacked, they would kill a few hundred people and leave immediately. Then, they would go to another place and launch a sneak attack. The crystal warships of the Cloud Sky Pavilion even attacked Yang Dingtian's most important submarine and torpedo manufacturing base, Fire Island, at lightning speed. Moreover, they almost succeeded. Dozens of people were killed, and 3 manufacturing facilities were destroyed. Yes, many warships and submarines had discovered the crystal warships of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Dozens of warships and submarines attacked them. The shore-based cannons also fired wildly. However, the 3 crystal warships had launched a suicidal attack. They had no intention of returning at all. After firing the crystal arrows, they directly self-destructed. The crystal power that Yang Dingtian yearned for even in his dreams had been blasted into smithereens. This sneak attack almost scared the soul out of the entire Council of Light. Almost the entire submarine base was on Fire Island. Fortunately, the losses were not great. However, the terror of the crystal warships was still fresh in everyone's minds. How awesome! The 4 suicide warships broke through many blockades at a terrifying high speed. Besieged by almost 100 warships and submarines, they broke into Fire Island. Compared to the crystal warships, the West Continent's fleet was as slow as an old woman. According to the data that Yang Dingtian received, the 4 suicidal warships were traveling at a shocking speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour. Fuck, even the warships on Earth were not as fast as this. This speed was almost as fast as a motorboat. In order to cooperate with the Cloud Sky Pavilion, the Black Vulture Corps of the Vulture sect finally officially left the southern barbarian continent and entered the eyes of the world. There were 5,000 Black Vultures. Instantly, another huge wave was set off. Once the war started, once the Vulture sect was involved, then, it would be another huge war. It was easy to start, but difficult to end. There were less than 4 hours left before Yang Dingtian's 5-day deadline. Yang Dingtian blew up the headquarters of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, causing an avalanche that destroyed almost all the buildings of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. In a fit of rage, Yun Kailan sent the crystal warships to attack Fire Island. This was a humiliating blow to the Council of Light. Moreover, her crystal warships carried out crazy sneak attacks on the entire West Continent. People were killed and people were killed. The West Continent's navy could do nothing about the crystal warships of the Cloud Sky Pavilion. They were too fast. Even if they ran in front of you, you would not be able to catch up. 4 hours later, if there was no change in the situation, they had no choice but to start the war. Even if the vulture sect was involved in the war, they would not hesitate. Of course, if that was the case, Qin Wanchou's departure would be a foregone conclusion. Yang Dingtian and the dozen members of the Council of Light all stayed in the headquarters. When the time was up, they would declare war on the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Then, it would be a long war, a long blockade, and crazy sneak attacks. Yang Dingtian did not have an air force, so he could not attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion. He could only destroy Southern Ocean City and lock it down. Then, he would have to endure long-term air attacks from the Vulture sect. Therefore, this war would be very long. Moreover, it could escalate at any time. Faction leader, Zhu Hongyu from the Black Heaven sect of Zhongzhou has secretly come to visit. Jiao Liao reported. Ah! Qin Wanchou almost collapsed in his seat. The strategic blackmail had finally paid off. The turning point had finally appeared. Yang Dingtian said, Uncle Master Qin, come with me to meet the secret emissary from Zhongzhou. Yes. Qin Wanchou said. In a secret room, Yang Dingtian met the secret emissary of Zhongzhou, Zhu Hongyu. City Lord Yang, my father is not an infiltrator of the evil ways. At most, he is a collaborator. The first thing the young master of the Black Heaven sect said was directly, evil ways give my father great power, and my father gives evil ways convenience. It's that simple. Yang Dingtian said. Therefore, don't treat us as the people of the evil ways. We are not mortal enemies. Zhu Hongyu said, my father brought a message. Before the Demon King Wentian revives, he will not have anything to do with the evil ways. He is still the leader of the Tiando League. Yang Dingtian said, then, what do you want to say? The West Continent is yours. The Council of Light is yours. Zhu Hongyu said, but Zhongzhou is ours. On the surface, we attack and suppress each other, but in reality, we do not interfere with each other's business. Are you begging me not to invade Zhongzhou? Yang Dingtian said. You don't have the strength to invade Zhongzhou for the time being. Zhu Hongyu said, not only are you at war with the Sky Cloud Pavilion, but the West Continent is also in civil war. As far as I know, there are more than 1 million rebels in the West Continent. There are more than 1,000 rebels. Before the West Continent is completely settled, you do not have the strength to invade Zhongzhou. Yang Dingtian fell silent. Moreover, although the ancient beasts are powerful, they can't go on land, Zhu Hongyu said. Yang Dingtian fell silent again. You want to attack the Zhongzhou Tiando League? Qin Wanchou said coldly, that is impossible. Sect Master Yang will not sit by and watch. Of course not. Zhu Hongyu said, the Zhongzhou Tiando League is a brother force of the Black Heaven sect. How can we fight against each other? You are overthinking. Yang Dingtian asked, then what is your objective for coming here? Zhu Hongyu said, there is no other reason. It is just that you and I will mind our own business. Moreover, I believe that you do not have the strength to invade us now. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, in other words, Zhu Qingzhu wants to stop the war with me, right? Yes, Zhu Hongyu said. Okay, Yang Dingtian said, as long as you draw a line with evil ways, I will accept everyone. We have already drawn a line with evil ways, Zhu Hongyu said. Not enough, Yang Dingtian said, you need proof of your allegiance. What proof of allegiance? Zhu Hongyu asked. Ning Wuming's head. The head of the evil ways in Zhongzhou, Yang Dingtian said. Impossible. Zhu Hongyu said, we cannot offend Wentian. If we do, once Wentian revives, our doomsday will come. If that is the case, then we have nothing to talk about, Yang Dingtian said. What can you do? What can you do? Zhu Hongyu said coldly, your submarine fleet and gunships are all being upgraded. Moreover, You have been beaten to a pulp by the Cloud Sky Pavilion's crystal warships. The internal strife in Western continent is getting worse and worse. What power do you have to invade us? We can negotiate with the Cloud Sky Pavilion, Yang Dingtian said coldly. Negotiate? Zhu Hongyu sneered. You blew up the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Yun Kalin wants nothing more than to tear you to pieces. He has already personally gone to the Black Heaven sect to ask my father to come out. He wants to gather all the martial arts forces in Zhongzhou and directly destroy the bodies of Yang Dingtian and his henchmen. He is ready to trample on the rules and find all the experts to wipe out Yang Dingtian's Council of Light. At this point, can you still negotiate? Yang Dingtian fell silent. After a long while, he said coldly, I still say the same thing. If you want to stop the war with me, you will have to prove your allegiance by attacking the spies of evil ways and Ning Wuming. Otherwise, I will use the most bloody method to completely quell the internal strife. Then, I will directly destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion's Southern Ocean City and seal off the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Then, I will furiously upgrade the submarines and gunships and bring the ancient beasts to destroy Immortal Island where the Black Heaven sect is located. So what? Zhu Hongyu said, the ancient beasts can't go on land. Even if you destroy everything on the coast of Immortal Island, so what? The experts of the Black Heaven sect are all safe and sound. What about reputation? What about reputation? The Black Heaven sect has completely lost its prestige. We have completely sealed off the Black Heaven sect. What can the Black Heaven sect use to command the entire Zhongzhou? Yang Dingtian said. Zhu Hongyu's expression instantly turned ugly. She said coldly, Sect leader Yang, you don't rely on yourself. What kind of ability are you using an ancient beast from the bottom of the sea? I didn't think that I was that capable in the first place. Yang Dingtian sneered. I'll say it again. If you want to stop the war with me, you'll have to attack the spies of evil ways and Ning Wuming to prove your allegiance. Otherwise, after defeating the Cloud Sky Pavilion and quelling the internal strife, I will completely surround the Black Heaven sect. Zhu Hongyu's eyes were almost filled with murderous intent. She slowly closed her eyes and said coldly, Sect leader Yang, you've gone too far. Since that's the case, there's nothing else to talk about. See the guest out. Yang Dingtian stood up and left. Wait! Zhu Hongyu shouted. You agree? Yang Dingtian said. That's impossible. Zhu Hongyu said, but I can report to my father and ask him to make a decision. Then I won't keep you any longer. Goodbye. Yang Dingtian said. Zhu Hongyu left. She took advantage of the night and flew into the sky. When she left Iron Furnace City, Zhu Hongyu looked in the direction of Iron Furnace City and said disdainfully, What genius! He's just an idiot. Then, a smug smile appeared on his face. After Zhu Hongyu left, Qin Wanchou smiled and said, Sect leader, the outcome has been decided. The Black Heaven sect is now in my grasp. Then, Qin Wanchou let out a long sigh of relief. It was too difficult. It was easier said than done. Qin Wanchou's strategic deception almost caused him to commit a grave mistake and almost caused him to resign in front of everyone. It was as if they had discussed it, but in reality, there was no discussion at all. Next, the secret envoys came to Iron Furnace City in waves. The second person to come was actually Wu Yuming. However, Yang Dingtian did not meet her. Instead, he had Qin Wanchou receive her. Qin Wanchou was a sly old fox. He was the best person to deal with. Just 4 hours later, Qin Wanchou and Wu Yuming's meeting ended. Then, he conveyed 2 messages from Wu Yuming. The first message was that she did not want Yang Dingtian to start a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Otherwise, the West State would bear all the consequences and Yang Dingtian would bear the consequences. Because when the Vulture sect was forced to get involved, the Sea of Hades would also be forced to get involved. They would completely abandon their previous neutral position. The second message was that this was Wu Yoming's first and last time mediating between the West State and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Because he was going to return to the Sea of Hades with the Vulture sect to visit his mother, Wu Yu. Yang Dingtian was especially concerned about the second message. Wu Yuming was going to return to the Sea of Hades. What did that mean? This message was very profound and very important. Wu Yuming was the second envoy. Soon, the third envoy arrived. It was Kuei Si from Fisher City. His only goal was to stop the war between the West State and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. City Lord Yang, I know you really need the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, Kuei Si said. You also know that this secret manual is in my hands. As long as you are willing to stop the war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion, I am willing to give you the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship for free. Kuei Si used the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship in exchange for a ceasefire. Chapter 563. Martial Uncle Kuei, I really want the fourth level of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. I'm also willing to exchange for it with something of equal value, or even more valuable, Yang Dingtian said. But this can only be a private matter. We can't use official matters to exchange for it. These were Yang Dingtian's heartfelt words. Hence, after meeting Kuei Si, Yang Dingtian had never mentioned the fourth level of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Under the current circumstances, it was too easy to confuse official matters with official matters. He couldn't use the Council of Light's official power to exchange for Yang Dingtian's personal pig-slaying swordsmanship secret manual. Even though the Council of Light didn't really want to start a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion. After hearing Yang Dingtian's words, Kuei Si's face turned ashen. Don't tell me you really want to destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion? Brother Kuei, shouldn't you be punished for your wrongdoings? Qin Wanchou suddenly said. Yun Kailin is your woman, but don't forget that Earth-Splitting City is also a member of the Council of Light. During the meeting, we've already agreed that once you return, you'll immediately become a permanent member of the Council of Light. Then, Qin Wanchou said, it's taboo to not distinguish between official matters and official matters. Kuei Si fell silent. Then, he suddenly said, I didn't know that Earth-Splitting City had already joined the Council of Light. However, that was obviously Kuei Ning's private decision. It doesn't count. Moreover, not long ago, Earth-Splitting City's Elders Guild also chose to leave the Council of Light. Therefore, Earth-Splitting City is no longer a member of the Council of Light. Yang Dingtian's face trembled. Martial Uncle Kuei Si, after you return, don't you intend to set things right and join the Council of Light? No. Kuei Si said, Earth-Splitting City is a member of the Tiando League. Why should we join the Council of Light? Not to mention that the Elders Guild had already left the Council of Light. Even if they hadn't, they would have left after I return. The moment these words came out, Yang Dingtian and Qin Wanchou's faces turned ugly. Regardless of what happened between the Cloud Sky Pavilion and Yang Dingtian, regardless of the fact that the Elders Guild of Earthshatter City had once betrayed the Council of Light. However, in Yang Dingtian's heart, and even in the hearts of the entire Council of Light, Earthshatter City was one of their own. He could even be called a member of the Council of Light. As for Yang Dingtian, Song Chunhua, and the others, they also treated Kuei Ning as a life-and-death brother. Now, Kuei Si actually said that she wanted to draw a clear line between the Council of Light and Yang Dingtian. Why? Could it be because of the Cloud Sky Pavilion? Because Yun Kailin is your woman? Yang Dingtian asked. No, it has nothing to do with that. Kuei Si said, City Lord Yang, I know that I spoke up for you at the Tiando League headquarters meeting, so you have always been grateful to me and have treated me as one of your own. However, I will solemnly tell you that I spoke up for justice in the Heavenly Dao Union for myself and for the sake of justice. Therefore, there is no friendship between us. However, because of my words, you immediately went to Earthshatter City to form an alliance. This is definitely a deep conversation. Of course, you bore the brunt of Zhu Qingzhu's anger for the sake of Earth Shatter City and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. I am very grateful for this. However, I think that during the Battle of Cloud Heaven City, my Demon Eagle army of Earth-splitting city had also contributed greatly to your cause. Therefore, our two families should be considered even. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and nodded vigorously. That's right. The Earth Fisher City has never owed me anything. On the contrary, I have always owed Earth Shatter City. No need, we are even, Kuei Si said. From today onwards, our two families should not have any interactions. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Yang Dingtian wanted to ask why, but he did not. Actually, from the first time he met Kuei Si, he was very polite and courteous. However, he was overly courteous and did not seem like a comrade in arms at all. Kuei Si's attitude had always been courteous, but there was also a hint of coldness and rejection. Therefore, after Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu won the battle, Earth Shatter City did not send anyone to congratulate them. Furthermore, Kuei Si had always addressed Yang Dingtian as City Lord Yang and not Sect Leader Yang. Obviously, he did not approve of his identity as the sect leader of the hidden sect. Why was this so? Yang Dingtian really wanted to know. City Lord Yang said that we should not mix public and private matters. I agree with this point. Kuei Si said, during the Demon City's Merchant Palace's auction, I bought the pig-slaying swordsmanship 4th rank secret manual out of anger. This item is of no use to me. Even though I spent money to buy it, it should still be considered as something that belongs to you. Now, let's officially return it to its rightful owner. After saying this, Kuei Si took out a scroll and passed it to Yang Dingtian. I don't deserve it. Yang Dingtian then took out the Ring of Protection and passed it to Kuei Si. This is the Ring of Protection. It can be considered as a priceless treasure. It can defend against all attacks that are of the same cultivation level as you. I will use this ring to exchange for your pig-slaying swordsmanship. No. Kuei Si directly placed the secret manual on the table and said, you saved my Earth Shatter City and my Demon Eagle army's battle with Cloud Heaven City was just icing on the cake. Therefore, I will give you this pig-slaying swordsmanship 4th rank secret manual. From now on, I do not owe you any more. Your ring is too precious. I cannot afford it. Goodbye. After saying this, Kuei Si directly left. Yang Dingtian wanted to chase after him, but Qin Wanqiu pulled him back. After walking to the door, Kuei Si suddenly turned his head and said, City Lord Yang, I don't care what ambitions you have. But I have 2 things to say. First, don't come looking for my Kuei Ning in the future. Don't have anything to do with my Earth Shatter City. Second, don't try to invade the southern Yingzhou. Once your army enters the Yingzhou continent, once you start a war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion, it means that you are also starting a war with my Earth Shatter City. My Demon Eagle army will do its best to chase away all invaders. When that time comes, don't blame me for being heartless. Then, Kuei Si left. In the secret room, Yang Dingtian fell into silence. There's no need to think. It's still Wu Yuming. Qin Wanqiu said, from Kuei Si's attitude of keeping people at arm's length, it can be seen. He kept calling you City Lord Yang and the last sentence even said that he didn't care what ambitions you had. He also thinks that you are impersonating the leader of the hidden sect and trying to usurp the Tiando League. Then, Qin Wanqiu patted Yang Dingtian's shoulder and said, don't be sad. Doing big things is like this. Not only do you have to bear the attacks of your enemies, you also have to bear the harm of your friends. Believe me, Kuei Si will soon taste the price of his ignorance. The entire Yingzhou continent will soon be swept into hell. Senior Uncle Qin, you don't have to be so gloating. Yang Dingtian said. Did I make it very obvious? Qin Wanqiu laughed, but you are right. Every time I see someone being ignorant and stupid, I am very happy. I have an inexplicable sense of superiority over others. Yang Dingtian was speechless. But you appear to be in pain. You try to explain everything, but it's often futile and even more painful. Qin Wanqiu said, so, you are the good guy and I am the bad guy. It's just that when you were against me and Song Shao, how vicious were you? The three of us old fellows have been trapped by you. You should use this mentality and method on Kue Si, or even Kue Ning. Yang Dingtian shook his head helplessly. After these few days of contact, Yang Dingtian understood Kue Si even more clearly. Without a doubt, Kue Si was a good person, an upright and unyielding person. And he wasn't greedy and was loyal. But he was very, very stubborn, to the point of being paranoid. He obtained the 4th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, but he didn't want Yang Dingtian's guardian ring. He directly threw the secret manual on Yang Dingtian's table. It showed that this person's character was first class. But because of this, once he decided on something, he couldn't change it anymore. So, sometimes, a good person brought more pain than a bad person. Previously, Qin Wanqiu's repeated actions were cunning and changeable. Yang Dingtian had a headache, but it wasn't painful. Because he knew that Qin Wanqiu was such a person. He could directly use methods to deal with him. But for a person like Kue Si, neither soft nor hard methods worked. Don't tell me we're just going to sit and watch the earth-splitting city slide into the abyss? Yang Dingtian said. That won't do. Qin Wanqiu said, we still have to get the Demon Eagle army. As for the others, don't think too highly of yourself. You can't save them all. Then, Qin Wanqiu laughed. Wu Yuming wants to bring his wife back to the Sea of Hades to see his mother. Such a simple signal, how can some idiots not see it? And they still want to jump down. If they want to die, even pulling them can't stop them. After that, the Council of Light still didn't declare war on the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Even the ancient giant beast retreated from the Cloud Sky Pavilion Sea. Originally, Yang Dingtian thought that such a retreat would make the Cloud Sky Pavilion restrain themselves. He didn't expect Yun Cailin to be even more arrogant. Her crystal warship appeared in the Western Sea and ambushed the West Continent's merchant ships on the sea. She ambushed all the targets on the ground. Moreover, Yun Cailin spent most of her time in Zhongzhou. She contacted various forces and invited Zhongzhou to attack Yang Dingtian again. She even visited Zhu Qingzhu of the Black Heaven sect again and again. She hoped that Zhu Qingzhu would be the leader of the alliance and once again form the Zhongzhou ancient martial artist army to attack the Council of Light and Yang Dingtian. Once a woman went crazy, she was completely unreasonable. Yun Cailin jumped up and down crazily, not for justice, but to vent her anger. Moreover, after the Vulture sect's Black Vulture army was deployed, she felt that she had gained a huge backer. Moreover, after the Black Vulture army appeared, Yang Dingtian immediately retreated. Of course, she thought that Yang Dingtian was afraid and weak. Therefore, she immediately took advantage of the situation to bully Yang Dingtian. She wanted to completely break Yang Dingtian's spine and avenge her humiliation. Therefore, during this period, Yang Dingtian received a large number of reports of casualties and attacks every day. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's ambushes became crazier and crazier. Moreover, a large fleet had already appeared in the West Continent's waters. Her provocations became crazier and crazier. In the end, Yun Cailin even publicly announced in Zhongzhou that she wanted Yang Dingtian to disband the Council of Light. She wanted Yang Dingtian to admit his guilt and accept his punishment. Otherwise, the Cloud Sky Pavilion's righteous crusade would not stop. Moreover, the crusade against Yang Dingtian's 99 major crimes that she was forced to read out was posted again. Zhu Qingzhu didn't dare to accept the crusade anymore. She had already torn it down and burned it. After Yun Cailin relied on the Vulture sect as her backer, she picked up the crusade again. She listed Yang Dingtian's 99 major crimes all over Zhongzhou and even spread it to the West continent. Yun Cailin even announced that she would discuss this with the Vulture sect. Then, she even contacted the Sea of Hades. The three sects pressured the Yin-Yang school together. They wanted the Yin-Yang school to officially expel Yang Dingtian from the Yin-Yang school and deny that Yang Dingtian was the successor of Dongfang Minmi. Once that was done, they would add the crime of Yang Dingtian cheating Shiman Yanyan into marrying him. His two noble identities, one being the successor of Dongfang Minmi and the other being the successor of Shiman Wuya, would be completely discarded. Then, Yang Dingtian would lose all his foundation in the Taekwondo League. This was equivalent to digging up Yang Dingtian's roots. Yang Dingtian and even Qin Wanqiu were gasping in amazement at this scene. Even when Yang Dingtian, Qin Qiqi, and Ning Wuming were at loggerheads with each other, they were not so thorough. At the very least, they used Leng Yanmei to tarnish Yang Dingtian. At other times, Ning Wuming was polite to Yang Dingtian. It was only after Yang Dingtian had stolen Wu Maji's body that Ning Wuming spoke ill of him. When Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu were at loggerheads, they listed 99 major crimes. However, when the battle really started, Zhu Qingzhu had always treated Yang Dingtian as a junior in the Taekwondo League. His status was high, so he had always followed the rules. There had never been an enemy as crazy as Yun Cailin. She looked as if she wanted to skin Yang Dingtian alive. Moreover, Yang Dingtian did not do anything to her. He did not even treat her as an enemy. It was truly breathtaking. Yun Cailin's crazy performance infuriated the entire Council of Light. Letters of challenge flew like snowflakes. They had been so fucking aggrieved during this period of time. The Council of Light had defeated Zhu Qingzhu, but Yun Cailin was trampling all over them. They could not tolerate this at all. However, the upper echelons of the Council of Light seemed to be really afraid of the Vulture sect. Although they retaliated against the Cloud Sky Pavilion, they did not declare war. Even the upper echelons of the Council of Light were dissatisfied. Song Shao had a fiery temper and was about to explode from anger. He directly declared that he would tear Yun Cailin into pieces. After being rejected, he simply skipped every meeting, saying that he did not want to be bullied. Only Qin Wanqiu was happier the crazier Yun Cailin was. He often shouted, "Soon, soon." During this period of time, the ordinary operations of the entire West continent, such as the cleanup operations, the freeing of slaves, the leasing of land, the construction of cities, and the relocation of Shijing, were all carried out in an orderly manner. Yang Dingtian was finally not so busy. Occasionally, he could have a meal with his wife and baby. Moreover, he had obtained 2 chaotic demonic turbidity and the yin-yang reincarnation crystal. The second celestial qi condensation purification array could also be built. Moreover, Yang Dingtian had made some modifications to this celestial qi condensation array. As for the modification plan, of course, it was based on the celestial qi condensation array in the martial arts hall at the bottom of the sea. Yang Dingtian had studied it for a while back then. Speaking of which, it was interesting. Back then, Yang Dingtian wanted to build the celestial qi condensation purification array to raise the level of Cloud Sky City and the morale of Cloud Sky City's martial artists. He wanted Cloud Sky City to be one of the top sects in the world. However, he did not expect that the situation would change so drastically. Not only was Cloud Sky City famous, but Yang Dingtian had even established another Taekwondo League and completely unified the West continent. Therefore, the strategic significance of this celestial qi condensation purification array was naturally not as great as before. However, it was still very significant. After the modification based on the structure of the celestial qi condensation purification array in the ancient world's underwater maze, the power of the second celestial qi condensation purification array increased by more than 30%. Compared to the array in the northwest Qin city, it was much more powerful. Therefore, during this period of time, Yang Dingtian and Zhu Hongxue were relatively free in the Council of Light. Zhu Hongxue basically did not care about anything. As for Yang Dingtian, he was only responsible for making the highest decisions. In order to make up for the guilt in his heart, ever since Yang Dingtian and Zhu Hongxue built the celestial qi condensation array, Yang Dingtian forced Zhu Hongxue to soak in this celestial qi condensation array every day. Today, the Black Heaven sect also had a celestial qi condensation array, but it could not compare to Yang Dingtian's. After the celestial qi condensation technique, Yang Dingtian personally became Zhu Hongxue's actual combat opponent. He sparred with him and helped him improve. As for the Cloud Sky Pavilion's crazy sneak attacks and Yun Kailan's crazy attacks and insults, Yang Dingtian simply did not see them and did not feel vexed. At this moment, Yang Dingtian fully felt a kind of sadness. Yun Kailan was clearly just a stepping stone, a supporting role of a supporting role. Yet, he forcibly stood on the stage and performed crazily to fight for the lead role. He and Qin Wanqiu had already foreseen how tragic his ending would be. As for the pig-slaying swordsmanship's fourth stage that Kue Si sent over, Yang Dingtian did not want to touch it at first. Later on, under Qin Wanqiu's advice, he felt that he was being too emotional and opened the scroll. As expected, this world would have surprises, but they would definitely not happen as you expected. The pig-slaying swordsmanship's fourth stage that Kue Si sent over was indeed the first stage. There was no second stage. However, Yang Dingtian had already learned the first stage. Therefore, for nearly a month after Kue Si's visit, Yang Dingtian was practically helping Zhu Hongxue cultivate an actual combat. Until one day, Qin Wanqiu said that Zhu Hongyu had come again. Zhu Hongyu came and said that Zhu Qingzhu had already agreed. He promised to show his allegiance to the Council of Light and stop the evil ways of attacking Ning Wuming in exchange for a ceasefire between the Council of Light and Zhu Qingzhu. Yang Dingtian said, I, Yang Dingtian, am a man of my word. As long as sect leader Zhu returns to the righteous path and crusades against evil ways, then, the Council of Light will immediately stop the war with Zhongzhou. Zhu Hongyu said, Sect leader Yang, I believe that you will see our sincerity very soon. Zhu Hongyu came quickly and left quickly. From start to end, they talked for less than 15 minutes. And his arrival, other than Yang Dingtian and a few people, no one else knew about it. After Zhu Hongyu left, Qin Wanqiu looked at the dark night sky outside and muttered to himself, Yun Kailan's doomsday is coming soon. Chapter 564. Zhu Qingzhu had returned. More than 2 months ago, he suffered a humiliating defeat, and then completely shut himself in a small attic, ignoring everything and seeing no one. Yun Kailan had visited him several times, but he had rejected all of them. Even the Black Heaven sect and Immortal Abode Island had shut down all of their docks. In short, everyone felt that Zhu Qingzhu was going to live in seclusion from then on. On this day, Yun Kailan visited Zhu Qingzhu again. The door to Zhu Qingzhu's loft finally opened again. This time, Zhu Qingzhu met with Yun Kailan for more than an hour. Yun Kailan once again proposed to use martial artists to destroy Yang Dingtian and the Council of Light. He wanted Zhu Qingzhu to be the leader of the alliance and organize another expedition. He also said that the Cloud Sky Pavilion and Earth-Splitting City would give it their all. After Zhu Qingzhu met with Yun Kailan, he went to the Tiando League's meeting and made his first public speech since his defeat. He severely criticized Yang Dingtian and the Council of Light. Our Zhongzhou Expeditionary Force is attacking the west to stop the Tiando League from breaking apart. This is a just war. Even if he lost, Zhu Qingzhu felt that it was an honorable defeat. Therefore, this war is undoubtedly an internal conflict within the Tiando League. It's a quarrel between brothers. The Cloud Sky Pavilion participated in this war to stop the Tiando League from breaking apart. What is wrong with that? Yang Dingtian took the opportunity to attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion to take revenge. How can a narrow-minded person like him be qualified to carry the Tiando League's banner of righteousness? As soon as he said this, the leaders of the Tiando League looked at him with admiration. However, they were still cold in their hearts. Some people even thought that Zhu Qingzhu would attack Yang Dingtian again after hearing Zhu Qingzhu's words. They wondered if Zhu Qingzhu would really be persuaded by Yun Kailan to attack Yang Dingtian again. If that was really the case, then don't blame them for leaving the stage. One had to know that among the hundreds of powers in the central state, all of the wealthiest ones were at the seaside. Everyone had seen Yang Dingtian's ancient giant beast. If you offended him, he might find you an eyesore one day. That giant beast could wander around the beach near your house. At least a year's worth of work would be wasted, and at least a few thousand people would die. If he completely sealed you off, you wouldn't be able to find your grave even if you cried. Therefore, everyone present had the same mentality. If you want to make a comeback, we won't stop you. We won't laugh at you in your face. We'll even applaud you. But you want us to contribute money, manpower, and manpower? Forget it then. You want us to attack Yang Dingtian? That was even more impossible. The Cloud Sky Pavilion sold their daughter to the Vulture sect, but we don't have to. Last time, it was all thanks to Yang Dingtian's magnanimity that he released the 8 million Central Province Great Army. Otherwise, after they were all killed, everyone's backbone would have been broken. Moreover, what everyone disdained was that after Zhu Qingzhu's defeat, he had been avoiding the question of his identity as a member of the evil ways. Before the battle, Zhu Qingzhu didn't explain, so no one dared to ask or question him. However, after the battle, Yang Dingtian said that Zhu Qingzhu was a member of the evil ways. Any power should draw a clear line with Zhu Qingzhu. Therefore, this became a crucial question. Are you, Zhu Qingzhu, a member of the evil ways? You definitely can't avoid this question. Although everyone knew the answer, even if it was a lie, Zhu Qingzhu still had to give everyone an explanation. Who is Yang Dingtian? He is the disciple of junior martial brother Dongfang Minmi, and he has to call me martial uncle. Moreover, my son Zhu Hongxue was bewitched by him and became sworn brothers with him. Previously, he and I had a relationship of a senior and a junior. Moreover, we were like fire and water. There is only one reason. He thinks that I am a member of the evil ways. This is the biggest mistake in the world. I, Zhu Qingzhu, am the sect leader of the Black Sky sect. Why would I become a member of the lowly evil ways? This is the most shameless blasphemy and slander. One day, I will get justice from Yang Dingtian. When he said this, the listless leader's expressions changed. Zhu Qingzhu was finally willing to face the main topic. He was finally willing to face his identity as a member of the evil ways. Whether I am a member of the evil ways or not, Yang Dingtian, you don't have the right to say it. Of course, I, Zhu Qingzhu, also don't have the right to say it. Let reality speak for itself. Zhu Qingzhu said loudly, but before that, I have something to say to Yang Dingtian. You, Yang Dingtian, are using the name of justice to suppress me. You are trying to cover up the fact that you are a member of the same faction and usurp the Tiando League. You keep saying that I am a member of the evil ways and that you want to suppress me. I will bear with it. However, the Cloud Sky Pavilion is not a member of the evil ways. It is a righteous Tiando League, right? Your suppression of her is revenge. You are trying to corrupt Zhongzhou and usurp the authority of the Tiando League. Yang Dingtian, if you want revenge and slander, come at the Black Sky sect. Come at me, Zhu Qingzhu. The previous suppression of the western region was my decision alone. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Therefore, don't try to suppress the Cloud Sky Pavilion in any way. Don't try to suppress any faction in Zhongzhou. If you want revenge, come at me. When he said this, everyone's expression changed. Even Yun Kailan was extremely grateful. He was almost in tears. Zhu Qingzhu's comeback directly took all the blame for the defeat and the crime of offending Yang Dingtian on himself. He completely disregarded all other factions and instantly gained the favor of all the factions present. Therefore, his comeback this time was perfect. Zhu Qingzhu's comeback speech and the official statement in the name of the Zhongzhou Taiyando League were immediately sent to West Continent. Moreover, a large diplomatic team directly entered Zhongzhou to mediate the conflict and war between West Continent and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Instantly, Yun Kailan's slogan became even louder. He kept saying that it was easy for Yang Dingtian to start the war, but it was not so easy to end it. Unless Yang Dingtian disbanded the Council of Light and admitted to the crime of splitting the Taiyando League in front of the world. Otherwise, Yang Dingtian would have the final say in the war. However, the end of the war would not be decided by him. Then, West Continent's Foreign Affairs Department started a tug-of-war with Zhongzhou. After the Cloud Sky Pavilion received the support of Zhongzhou's Zhu Qingzhu and the Vulture sect, they became even more ambitious. They started to publicly criticize Yang Dingtian's personal morality. For example, the reason Yang Dingtian attacked the Cloud Sky Pavilion was not for justice. It was because he failed to marry Yun Kailan's daughter, Yun Zhenu. Therefore, he attacked the Cloud Sky Pavilion and forced the Council of Light to step down. Then, Yun Kailan declared that a lecherous and shameless person like Yang Dingtian. He was daydreaming if he wanted to marry Yun Zhenu. A lowly thief who had committed incestuous acts wanted to marry the pure, noble, and beautiful young master of the Sky Cloud Pavilion. He was like a toad lusting after a swan. Yun Kailan was not as shameless as Qin Wanchou to give his daughter to Yang Dingtian as a concubine. Moreover, Yun Kailan called on the people of West Continent to stand up against Yang Dingtian. She also called on Yang Peipei, Shimen, Yan Yan, and the other women to stand up and leave Yang Dingtian's cruel oppression. Of course, no matter how much Yun Kailan said, the negotiation between Yang Dingtian and Zhu Qingzhu continued in an orderly manner. The first negotiation ended in failure. Yang Dingtian only had one question for Zhu Qingzhu. You keep saying that you are not from evil ways. How can you prove it? If you want to mediate the conflict between the West Continent and the Cloud Sky Pavilion, prove your innocence first. After the news reached Zhu Qingzhu, Zhu Qingzhu replied, whether I am from evil ways or not, I will use my actions to prove my innocence. However, Yang Dingtian wanted to prove that he did not want to usurp the Taiyando League, so he immediately stopped attacking the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Then, Yang Dingtian announced that as long as Zhu Qingzhu could prove that he was not from evil ways, as long as Zhu Qingzhu could suppress evil ways and return to justice, the West Continent and the West Continent could unite and unite. Then, the Central Continent and the Western Continent would be able to unite against the outside world, and the internal strife within the Heavenly Law Alliance would be stopped. As for the Cloud Sky Pavilion's crimes, the West Continent could also forgive them to a certain extent and stop attacking the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Then, Zhu Qingzhu replied that he hoped Yang Dingtian would do as he said. As for his innocence, Yang Dingtian would be able to see it very soon. This tug-of-war of public opinion lasted for more than a month. Finally, one day, Zhu Qingzhu announced that the Taiyando League would be holding a Taiyando League assembly in Zhongzhou. This time, the West Continent sent Qin Wanchou and Song Chunhua to participate. At the Taiyando League assembly, Zhu Qingzhu officially announced, in order to prove my innocence, for the sake of justice in the world. From today onwards, the Black Heaven sect will do its best to eliminate all the remnants of evil ways in Zhongzhou. He also ordered the entire Heavenly Law Alliance in the Central Prefecture to unite and uproot the remaining forces of the evil Tao in the Central Prefecture. He, Zhu Qingzhu, was from the righteous path. Evil ways were his sworn enemies. Zhu Qingzhu's declaration of war was like a bomb that exploded in the middle of the turbulent lake, shocking the world once again. Zhu Qingzhu had declared war on evil ways. Zhongzhou had once again become the focus of the world's attention. Zhu Qingzhu was a man of his word. After his declaration of war, all the elites of the Black Heaven sect came out in full force to hunt down all the forces of evil ways in Zhongzhou. Zhongzhou, which was already in a state of unrest, was once again plunged into a bloodbath. However, Zhu Qingzhu was serious this time. The evil Dao's forces were uprooted one after another, and their spies were caught one after another. Then, they were beheaded in public in front of everyone. In just half a month, thousands of people were killed. Thousands of heads were hung on the city gates of Zhongzhou. Moreover, all the spies of evil ways had solid evidence. Their heads and evidence were all displayed to the public. Almost the entire Zhongzhou was convinced that Zhu Qingzhu was truly an enemy of evil ways. However, Zhu Qingzhu was still fighting alone. No forces in Zhongzhou were willing to follow him. After killing a few thousand people, Zhu Qingzhu sent another external affairs team to the West Continent to express that he, Zhu Qingzhu, had already proven his innocence and his determination to suppress the evil Dao. Therefore, it was time for Yang Dingtian to fulfill his promise and cease the war with the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Zhu Qingzhu was now standing under the banner of justice. Yang Dingtian replied, Zhu Qingzhu, why are you only fighting the small demons and not the tiger? Therefore, your crusade against evil ways is just a pretense. Therefore, the Council of Light cannot stop the crusade against the Cloud Sky Pavilion. If he wanted to prove that he had truly broken away from evil ways, he would have to fight the biggest lackey of evil ways, Ning Wuming from the Ning clan. After he said that, everyone thought that Yang Dingtian was running away from his promise and wanted to take revenge on the Cloud Sky Pavilion. For the first time, the world's public opinion was on Zhu Qingzhu's side. Yang Dingtian was on the negative side of public opinion. The negotiation failed again. Zhu Qingzhu's mediation failed again. However, his reputation for justice rose again. After receiving Yang Dingtian's reply, Zhu Qingzhu immediately rebuked him. Yang Dingtian was trying to frame Ning Wuming. What evidence did he have to prove that Ning Wuming was from evil ways? The Ning clan was now a member of the Tiando League and the vice-leader of the Middle State Tiando League. Yang Dingtian obviously did not want to stop the crusade against the Cloud Sky Pavilion and wanted to continue meddling in the Middle State. Stop trying to find excuses. After that, Zhu Qingzhu's massacre of the evil ways continued. Ning Wuming from the Ning clan also publicly rebuked Yang Dingtian. He said that Yang Dingtian was trying to frame him and that he was from evil ways. He was completely shameless. Suddenly, countless messengers went back and forth between the Middle State and the West Continent every day. Yang Dingtian, Zhu Qingzhu, and Ning Wuming argued with each other every day. As for Yun Cailin, he was the fiercest one. For the past few months, the whole world was filled with her voice every day. Her attacks on Yang Dingtian were even more blatant. She even said that Yang Dingtian had molested Madame Shimen. She was shameless to the extreme and did not deserve to be called a human. She even said that negotiations were meaningless and that they should be destroyed humanely. Moreover, the craziest thing was, Ning Wuming and Yun Cailin had actually formed an alliance through words. The two of them had been echoing each other from afar. Yun Cailin was completely crazy. If Zhu Qingzhu was from evil ways, it would be unclear. At most, it could only be said that Zhu Qingzhu and evil ways had cooperated before. However, Ning Wuming was from evil ways. Everyone knew that in their hearts. However, Yun Cailin had the Vulture sect as his backing. Moreover, he had just tasted the feeling of being able to do whatever he wanted. He felt that justice and evil ways were all based on his mouth. Whoever had the biggest power and loudest voice was justice. Even if it was evil, it was justice. Whoever had the smallest voice and the smallest power was evil. Justice was also evil. Yun Cailin felt that after grasping this truth, she no longer avoided interacting with Ning Wuming from evil ways. She felt that she had already become the person who held the power in this world. She felt that she could already blur the lines between justice and evil. She had already reached that level. Therefore, she had already publicly suggested that the Ning tribe of the South Sea join the Righteous Alliance to suppress Yang Dingtian and completely eliminate Yang Dingtian from the world. As for Ning Wuming, he gave a very positive response. He hoped to fight side by side with a brave and righteous person like Yun Kailan. Instantly, Yang Dingtian and Yun Kailan's intelligence were once again in awe. Can't you see that Zhu Qingzhu's words are becoming more and more distant from Ning Wuming? Yun Kailan, you're still getting closer. You really won't die if you don't seek death. Just like that, the war of words continued. However, the West Continent and the Cloud Sky Pavilion did not officially start a war, nor did they officially stop fighting. The Cloud Sky Pavilion's attacks on Yang Dingtian became more and more explicit and humiliating. In these few months, Yang Dingtian's reputation had been ruined to an unimaginable degree. A lie would become the truth even if it was told 100 times. Now, many people really believed that Yang Dingtian had humiliated his mother-in-law, Yang Peipei, and that the two of them really had an unclean relationship. However, Yang Peipei did not care much about this rumor. When she saw Yang Dingtian, she only smiled bitterly. Even that stupid woman, Qin Jiaojiao, joked that her husband was being slandered. Since you can't explain yourself, you might as well do it. That way, you won't be wronged. If you call Madame Shiman big sister one day, I'll find it very interesting. Then, Qin Jiaojiao was beaten up so badly that day. Her cries scared the baby to tears. After that, she could not get out of bed for 7 to 8 days. From her butt to her thighs, everything was swollen. Zhu Qingzhu's pursuit of the hidden forces of the evil Tao continued. Until one day. Suddenly, one of the 27 factions of the Tiando League, the Eagle Nest, which had the second largest air force in the world and the largest air force in the world, was completely wiped out overnight. That's right, completely wiped out. The entire Eagle Nest's main castle, which had close to 10,000 people, was completely wiped out. The Eagle Nest's Eagle Clan, which had more than 3,000 people, was completely wiped out. Regardless of gender, age, they were all slaughtered. The Eagle Nest's mayor was beheaded, skinned, and dismembered. At this point, the Eagle Clan, which had been passed down for 600 years, was completely wiped out and disappeared from the chaotic world. This news instantly shocked the world. Almost all the leaders of the Tiando League were horrified. Their hearts were filled with fear, and their limbs were cold. White Cloud City was wiped out. The Yi Clan was wiped out. The Autumn Water Sword sect was wiped out. The Chiu Clan was wiped out. However, there were signs. Yang Dingtian had also wiped out the Chiu Clan openly. The Eagle Nest's entire clan was wiped out too suddenly. There were no signs at all. It was as if they were all wiped out overnight. Suddenly, all the signs pointed to Yang Dingtian. This was because the Eagle Nest had mobilized the entire Golden Condor army twice. Other than Zhu Qingzhu, it could be said that they had the deepest hatred for Yang Dingtian in Zhongzhou. Yang Dingtian had once wiped out the Autumn Water Sword sect and White Cloud City. Therefore, everyone's gaze fell on Yang Dingtian. They believed that Yang Dingtian was basically a suspect in this matter. As for Yun Kailan, he was even more direct. He said that Yang Dingtian had lost his mind and taken revenge by slaughtering the entire Eagle Nest's 10,000 people. For such a vicious and shameless person like Yang Dingtian, the central province should unite immediately and carry out the most thorough annihilation. The entire West Continent's Council of Light was also in a mess. The Council of Light obviously knew that Yang Dingtian had nothing to do with the extermination of the Eagle Nest's entire clan. Therefore, everyone was worried about how to win the war of public opinion. At this time, Qin Wanqiu spoke. Don't worry, this matter has nothing to do with us. I know it has nothing to do with us. That's why I want to clear our names, Song Shao said. Qin Wanqiu said, when I said it has nothing to do with us, it means that this matter will not be blamed on us. Even though Zhu Qingzhu is very tempted to do this, in the end, someone will definitely take the blame for this murderer. After the extermination of the eagle nest, Zhu Qingzhu vomited blood in public. He was furious and announced that no matter who had killed the entire eagle nest, he would do his best to find out the truth. Then, no matter who the murderer was, he would kill them all and bring justice to the eagle nest. Moreover, Zhu Qingzhu's words hinted at Yang Dingtian and the Council of Light many times. They also started to discuss forming a martial arts alliance to suppress Yang Dingtian and the Council of Light. Suddenly, Yun Kailan felt that the dawn of victory had arrived and was trembling with excitement. Then, he responded immediately and announced that the Cloud Sky Pavilion would do their best to kill Yang Dingtian. The second to respond was Ning Wuming. However, only the Ning clan and the Cloud Sky Pavilion responded. It wasn't that the other factions trusted Yang Dingtian, but that they were afraid. Even if it was Yang Dingtian who had done it, they wouldn't dare to do anything. Just when this case wasn't completely cleared up, the second massacre of a clan occurred again. In one night, more than 8,000 people on White Sand Island were completely massacred. Although White Sand Island wasn't a member of the Tiando League, they had always followed Zhu Qingzhu. In the previous battle against Yang Dingtian, White Sand Island had given their all. The White Sand Island Lord had also been skinned alive and had died a horrible death. Suddenly, more voices were pointing at Yang Dingtian. They felt that Yang Dingtian was the culprit behind the extermination of the Eagle Nest sect. Suddenly, Yun Kailan cried and wept at the Tiando League meeting. He begged the Zhongzhou Tiando League to immediately form a martial arts alliance to kill Yang Dingtian and seek justice for the tens of thousands of people who had died. Not long after, the third extermination of the Eagle Nest sect happened again. Maple Leaf Villa's 5,000 people were exterminated. The entire villa was wiped out. Maple Leaf Villa had also participated in the battle against Cloud Sky City. This time, at the Tiando League meeting, Yun Kailan knelt on the ground and begged the Zhongzhou Tiando League forces to form a martial arts alliance to suppress the Council of Light and Yang Dingtian. However, only the Ning clan of the South Sea responded. Kuei Si announced that if there was evidence to prove that Yang Dingtian was the culprit, he would do his best to kill Yang Dingtian. Furthermore, Kuei Si sent a message to the West Continent, asking Yang Dingtian to immediately come to the Zhongzhou Tiando League to be interrogated. There were already 3 extermination cases. The entire Zhongzhou forces were still indifferent to the suppression of Yang Dingtian. However, Yang Dingtian's fierce reputation had almost spread throughout the world. Almost everyone in the world really believed that these extermination cases were done by Yang Dingtian. As for the West Continent, Yang Dingtian still did not give any explanation. Just when everyone thought that Yang Dingtian would always bear this accusation, the situation suddenly took a turn for the better. The fourth extermination case happened immediately after. It happened at the most remote Dock 13 in the South Zhongzhou. There were more than 30,000 people, and half of them died. Why did only half of them die? Because Zhu Qingzhu and the other Black Sky sect experts arrived in time to save the remaining half of the people in the Dock 13. However, this was not a big deal. The most important thing was that the Ning tribe elder of the South Sea was found among the murderers. Although these murderers committed suicide immediately, Zhu Qingzhu still recognized one of them. It was the Ning tribe elder of the South Sea. Therefore, all the spearheads were pointed at the Ning tribe of the South Sea. The next day, Zhu Qingzhu ordered Ning Wuming of the Ning tribe to go to the headquarters of the Zhongjing Tiando League to be interrogated. Ning Wuming did not come. Following that, the hidden forces of the evil ways issued a statement. They said that the recent extermination cases were the revenge of the evil ways on Zhu Qingzhu. They ordered Zhu Qingzhu to stop killing the hidden forces of the temple immediately. Otherwise, the 5th and 6th sects would be exterminated. The murderers were finally revealed. It was the revenge of the evil ways, not Yang Dingtian. Everything pointed to one person, and that was the Ning tribe elder of the South Sea, Ning Wuming. At this time, the stupid and arrogant Yun Kalin finally realized what was going on. He felt a terrifying chill and an unknown danger. Another 5 days passed. A plague suddenly broke out in a city in South Zhongzhou. Tens of thousands of people died in a day. The hidden forces of the evil ways in Zhongzhou once again announced that they were responsible for this incident. They ordered Zhu Qingzhu to stop killing the evil ways immediately. Otherwise, a bigger plague would appear in Zhongzhou. At this time, Zhu Qingzhu finally caught a few important spies of the evil ways and forced them to confess. Then, the biggest commander of the evil ways in Zhongzhou, Ning Wuming, finally revealed himself. Zhu Qingzhu vomited blood in public during the Tiando League conference. He also wrote a confession, saying that he had been deceived by Ning Wuming and had led the Ning tribe into the Tiando League. Then, Zhu Qingzhu called for the entire Zhongzhou Tiando League to be irreconcilable with the evil ways. He ordered the Zhongzhou Tiando League to unite with the West Continent Council of Light to exterminate all the hidden forces of the evil ways. He also ordered the Ning tribe of the South Sea to exterminate Ning Wuming. Zhu Qingzhu's declaration spread to the West Continent. Yang Dingtian immediately announced that since Zhu Qingzhu had killed Ning Wuming, then Yang Dingtian was willing to keep his promise and stop attacking the Sky Cloud Pavilion. Then, the West Continent announced an official ceasefire with the Sky Cloud Pavilion. The bell of the Sky Cloud Pavilion's destruction began to ring. The fool had finally fallen into this terrible trap. Chapter 565. After Zhu Qingzhu's defeat in the naval battle, his reputation had almost been completely ruined. Thus, when he returned to Central State, he immediately chose to go into seclusion and shut himself in his pavilion. No matter how the outside world battered him, he would not come out. Why? It was to let everything calm down first. It was to prevent the situation from becoming even more complicated. It was to prevent the world from attacking him from all sides. So, what was he thinking during the time he was locked up? Taking revenge on Yang Dingtian? No, definitely not. Even though he wanted nothing more than to tear Yang Dingtian into pieces, he was only thinking of one thing. That was to regain control of Central State and regain his supreme authority in Central State. What should he do? If soft methods did not work, he couldn't possibly bribe them one by one, right? Now that Zhu Qingzhu's reputation had been completely ruined, he could not bend his back. Once he bent his back to the leader of a faction in Central State, he would never be able to straighten his back again. Moreover, power obtained through bribery was not reliable at all. Moreover, the leader of the faction in Central State had already been scared witless by Yang Dingtian. He might not even be able to bribe them. Using force would not work either. He could not use force to attack the various factions in Central State. First of all, Yang Dingtian was eyeing the western region covetously. Once Zhu Qingzhu made a move against the factions in Central State, it was guaranteed that the next day, these factions would all submit to Yang Dingtian in order to protect themselves. Then, Yang Dingtian would smoothly intervene in Central State. Of course, there was another method. That was to support a terrifying faction and launch a destructive attack on Central State. Then, Zhu Qingzhu would appear in the name of a savior and lead Central State to destroy this terrifying faction. Then, during this process, those who opposed him would become the terrifying faction. As for who would act as the terrifying faction, of course, it would be evil ways. However, there were two things that had to be taken note of. First, it could not be too sudden. If it was too sudden, others would see through it. It would be best to create the false impression that Zhu Qingzhu had no choice but to turn the tide and save everyone. Second, it had to be righteous and stop Yang Dingtian from speaking. It would prevent Yang Dingtian from interfering in Central State's affairs. Zhu Qingzhu waited for a long time, but could not find a good opportunity. Then, the opportunity finally appeared. Yang Dingtian's punishment of the Cloud Sky Pavilion was endless. What was a real strategist? He could find an opportunity to break through a situation from a trivial matter. Zhu Qingzhu found an opportunity in the conflict between the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the West Continent. Of course, he was afraid that Yang Dingtian was putting on an act and setting up a trap. Therefore, even though he had found an opportunity, he still did not dare to act rashly. Later on, the conflict between the Cloud Sky Pavilion and Yang Dingtian intensified. In the end, it caused Yang Dingtian to destroy Nan'ing City's pier. The Cloud Sky Pavilion had launched a sneak attack on the southwest continent, resulting in countless casualties. After that, Yang Dingtian even launched a sneak attack on the Cloud Sky Pavilion's headquarters, destroying the Cloud Sky Pavilion that had existed for hundreds of years. After that, the Cloud Sky Pavilion even crazily attacked Fire Island in a suicidal manner. Zhu Qingzhu knew that these two families would not rest until one of them was dead. It was definitely not an act. Later on, the relationship between the Earth Vulture City and the Western Continent's Yang Dingtian fell out. The Black Vulture army of the Vulture sect left the southern barbarian continent and promised to protect the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Instantly, the entire situation became incomparably complicated. It was only at this point that Zhu Qingzhu clearly felt that his opportunity had come. Therefore, he sent Zhu Hongyu to the Western Continent secretly to negotiate a truce with Yang Dingtian. The truce this time was merely a probing contact. There was an ulterior motive behind it. Zhu Qingzhu did not care about the truce with Yang Dingtian at all. As expected, Yang Dingtian proposed a condition. He wanted Zhu Qingzhu to break off his relationship with the evil ways and offer Ning Wuming's head as proof of his allegiance. This was within Zhu Qingzhu's expectations. This was because Yang Dingtian only knew how to do this. He wanted Qiu Wanjie to kill Zhu Hongli as proof of his allegiance. He wanted Qin Wanqiu to kill Zhu Qingzhu's concubine as proof of his allegiance. Now, he wanted Zhu Qingzhu to kill Ning Wuming as proof of his allegiance. Zhu Hongyu naturally refused. However, after leaving the Western Continent, he cursed Yang Dingtian in his heart for being an idiot. Then, Zhu Qingzhu saw that Yang Dingtian was still as childish as before. He had fallen into the trap. After Zhu Qingzhu received a reply, he immediately left the Black Heaven sect and secretly visited Wu Yuming. Even Zhu Hongyu did not know about this. Only Wu Yuming and Zhu Qingzhu knew. The two of them talked for an hour. Then, Wu Yuming came to the Western Continent and tried to mediate the conflict between the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Western Continent. Of course, this was just in passing. More importantly, Wu Yuming brought his wife, Vulture, back to the Sea of Hades to visit his mother, Wu Yu. Then, Zhu Qingzhu returned. His attitude was very righteous. He still mediated between Yang Dingtian and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Moreover, his attitude was even more touching. He directly said that if Yang Dingtian had any problems, he could come at him directly. He did not want to touch the Cloud Sky Pavilion or anyone in the Middle Continent. Instantly, his words won many people's favor. Finally, no one booed his first appearance. Then, he took the second step. It was as if he was forced by Yang Dingtian to save the Cloud Sky Pavilion. In order to prove his innocence, Zhu Qingzhu began to eliminate the evil way's hidden forces in the Middle Continent. After a few days of killing, he killed thousands of people. Instantly, Zhu Qingzhu washed away half of the evil way's color. Then, there was the destruction of the Eagle Nest, White Sand Island, and Maple Leaf Villa. Who did these destruction? Of course, it was the terrifying forces of the evil ways. However, Zhu Qingzhu was not satisfied. At first, he still pointed all the blame at Yang Dingtian. If he could incite the anger of the Middle Continent's forces, it would be the best result for him to send martial artists to suppress Yang Dingtian. Currently, the Black Heaven sect alone could not destroy the Western Continent's martial arts forces. However, if they gathered all the martial arts forces in the Middle Continent, they could still do it. If these destruction could gather the martial arts forces in the Middle Continent again and suppress Yang Dingtian, then he might as well take the opportunity to suppress Yang Dingtian again. However, the forces in the Middle Continent were scared out of their wits by Yang Dingtian. Several times, only the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Ning clan responded to the suppression of Yang Dingtian. Therefore, Zhu Qingzhu had no choice but to carry out this conspiracy according to the original plan. In the fourth destruction, he finally found the culprit. It was a massacre caused by the evil ways. Their purpose was to take revenge on Zhu Qingzhu for purging the evil ways' hidden forces. Then, the terrifying forces of the evil ways launched an even crazier counterattack. They created a plague and killed tens of thousands of people. Then, the mastermind of the evil ways in the Middle Continent was gradually exposed. It was Ning Wuming of the Ning clan in the South Sea. This was an answer that no one was surprised by. It was completely reasonable. Then, holding the banner of absolute justice, Zhu Qingzhu began to control the forces in the Middle Continent again. Was there a more righteous name than eliminating the hidden forces of the evil ways? In the next few days, the counterattack of the terrifying forces of the evil ways in the Middle Continent became even crazier. The number of destruction and plague incidents increased. Suddenly, the entire Middle Continent was in a state of panic. Zhu Qingzhu began to gather the forces in the Middle Continent to form a crusade against the evil ways. He wanted to completely eliminate the hidden forces of the evil ways in the Middle Continent and fight against the evil ways and Ning Wuming to the end. Of course, if you didn't join at this time, then sorry, the next destruction of the evil ways would be your family. Therefore, in order to save their lives, the forces in the Middle Continent once again gathered under Zhu Qingzhu's name. Zhu Qingzhu once again had the power to call the wind and summon the rain in the Middle Continent. Therefore, no matter which plane or which world, terrorism was the best banner. This country was disobedient. It was simple. Create a terrifying force with the left hand and control the anti-terrorism force with the right hand. Whoever disobeyed, let the terrifying force beat them up. Then, they would obediently go to the country and ask for help. Of course, some people would say that a country couldn't win against a terrifying force. Of course, there were also elite members of the special forces in the terrifying force. The methods used by Zhu Qingzhu had been used so many times on Earth. However, good methods were always tried and tested. Moreover, among the current big shots in the chaotic world, only Zhu Qingzhu could play with the evil ways and the Tiando League. The crusade against the evil ways in the Middle Continent was still in full swing. The power in Zhu Qingzhu's hands was getting more and more terrifying. That was because his methods of struggle had been upgraded. Previously, if you didn't join me, the terrifying force of the evil ways would destroy your family. Later on, when eliminating the infiltrators of the evil ways, they would occasionally capture captives and even get a list of names. This made people's hearts jump, because what would these captives say? Only the geniuses would know. Only the heavens knew who would be on the list of the infiltrators of the evil ways. The first time they captured a captive, he spat out Ning Wuming's name. Everyone acknowledged the authority of the captive's words. After all, Ning Wuming was the leader of the evil ways in the Middle Continent. Everyone knew this. Therefore, as long as the captive did not spit out too many names, it would naturally be authoritative. Therefore, later on, if the forces in the Middle Continent did not listen to him, they would become infiltrators of the evil ways. Zhu Qingzhu would then use the banner of justice to destroy them. How frightening would the consequences be? Therefore, in order to prevent themselves and their families from becoming infiltrators of the evil ways, all the forces in the Middle Continent once again lay low under Zhu Qingzhu's feet and did not dare to resist. Through the banner of the anti-evil ways, Zhu Qingzhu once again held the supreme power in the Middle Continent. In fact, this time, he held even more power. This was because the list of infiltrators of the evil ways was like the sword of Damos hanging over the heads of the forces in the Middle Continent. It could fall at any time. After regaining control of the forces in the Middle Continent, Zhu Qingzhu laughed at the sky in the Black Heaven sect and said, Yang Dingtian. Yes, he really had to thank Yang Dingtian for his childishness. Without Yang Dingtian's cooperation, his road to power would not have been so smooth. The crusade against the infiltrators of the evil ways in the Middle Continent was still in full swing. However, it was clear that they had achieved a temporary victory because the counterattacks of the evil ways were getting weaker and weaker. Then, one day, Zhu Qingzhu announced at the Tiando League conference that the Middle Continent had achieved a decisive victory in eliminating the evil ways. Next, he was preparing to launch an expedition against the Ning clan of the South Sea to completely eliminate the only military base of the evil ways in the chaotic world. Then, Zhu Qingzhu sent an envoy to the West Continent again to invite Yang Dingtian's Council of Light to join the battle. This world was too ridiculous. Zhu Qingzhu invited Yang Dingtian to join the crusade against the Ning clan of the South Sea, Ning Wuming. Moreover, Zhu Qingzhu emphasized that Yang Dingtian's ancient giant beast should join the battle as well. For a moment, Yang Dingtian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was not good to reject, but it was also not good to accept. What if he rejected? What about Yang Dingtian's righteous heart? You said that you wanted to eliminate the evil ways, and now it's time to eliminate the leader of the evil ways. You don't want to go. But what if he agreed? Everyone knew that Zhu Qingzhu and Ning Wuming were in cahoots. If he really went, he would be in deep trouble. The Council of Light is duty-bound to eliminate the evil ways and Ning Wuming. Yang Dingtian said firmly, however, the Council of Light is the highest authority in the Tiando League. We cannot listen to Zhu Qingzhu's command. On the other hand, Zhu Qingzhu is only the leader of the Black Heaven sect. He should listen to the leader of the Hidden sect. In other words, Yang Dingtian agreed to join the crusade against the Ning clan of the South Sea, but he wanted the highest authority. The envoy returned to the Middle Continent and reported Yang Dingtian's words to Zhu Qingzhu. Zhu Qingzhu sighed. Sigh, Yang Dingtian has also become evil. It's not easy to fool him anymore. When all the terrifying forces of the evil Tao pointed at Ning Wuming, Yun Cailin sensed a terrifying aura, no matter how stupid or slow he was. Thus, she no longer jumped up and down. After signing the armistice with the West Continent, she immediately withdrew into the Cloud Sky Plateau. This was really a form of deceiving oneself. It was as if she hid in a cloth bag so that no one would come looking for her. Hence, after Zhu Qingzhu raised the banner of eliminating the evil ways and regained control of the Middle Continent. However, there were still two factions that did not listen to Zhu Qingzhu's command. The first faction was Kuei Si from the Earth-splitting city. This person was stubborn and upright. He had always disliked Zhu Qingzhu. How could he listen to Zhu Qingzhu's command? Hence, during a few crusades against the evil ways, Kuei Si ignored Zhu Qingzhu's invitation letter and even tore it up. As for the Cloud Sky Pavilion, they sealed off the pier and the mountain gate in an attempt to isolate themselves from the world. Hence, they also ignored Zhu Qingzhu's letter. Of course, there were a few times when Yun Zhenu left the Cloud Sky Plateau and went to the Vulture sect in the southern barbarian continent. As if they had received an affirmative answer, the Cloud Sky Pavilion's southern ocean pier opened again. The mountain gate of the Cloud Sky Pavilion opened again. Zhu Qingzhu started to gather the martial artists' forces and prepared to attack the Ning clan in the South Sea. However, the Ning clan in the South Sea was isolated and thousands of miles away. They needed the strongest flying cavalry army and the strongest navy. Hence, Zhu Qingzhu wrote 2 letters and sent them to the Earth-splitting city and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. He requested the Earth-splitting city to send out the Demon Eagle army and the Cloud Sky Pavilion to send out the Crystal Demon ships. Together, they would attack the Ning clan in the South Sea. These two were the lifeblood of the Earth-splitting city and the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Furthermore, it was obvious that they would not be able to return. In the previous naval battle, Zhu Qingzhu had already tasted the pain of lacking a powerful navy and air force. He also saw the Cloud Sky Pavilion sneak attack the West Continent and beat up Yang Dingtian so badly that he could not fight back. Moreover, Zhu Qingzhu knew about Yang Dingtian's demonic fire phoenix. If it was not for the huge fire, the demonic fire phoenix would just be a pet that was useless. As for that ancient giant beast, when he thought about it, he realized that Yang Dingtian's control over it was rather ordinary. Hence, after obtaining the Demon Eagle army and the Crystal Demon ships, Zhu Qingzhu had a huge advantage over Yang Dingtian's military forces. Hence, Zhu Qingzhu was also determined to obtain the Demon Eagle army and the Crystal Demon ships. Regarding Zhu Qingzhu's invitation, Earth-Splitting City's Kuei Si replied with a simple no. As for Yun Kailan's reply, it was still so unique. Her reply was, "Who are the evil ways? Only God knows." In her words, she was actually hinting at Zhu Qingzhu. After Zhu Qingzhu received Yun Kailan's reply, he was furious. "Fuck you, Yun Kailan, bitch. You really bite whoever you see. Yang Dingtian is really useless. How can he endure being scolded like this?" At the Tiando League conference, Zhu Qingzhu announced that Yang Dingtian would also participate in the crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea. Although there was still a dispute over the command, His Excellency Yang Dingtian's determination in the cause of justice was worth learning from. Then, Zhu Qingzhu expressed his regret for Earth-Splitting City and the Sky Cloud Pavilion's refusal. However, he announced that even if Earth-Splitting City and the Sky Cloud Pavilion refused to participate in the war, even without the Demon Eagle army and the Crystal Demon ships, he would still lead Zhongzhou's martial arts forces to continue the crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea. Moreover, he would definitely not hold a grudge against the Sky Cloud Pavilion and Earth-Splitting City. Then, Zhongzhou's crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea was in full swing. The Zhongzhou army was gathering more and more. The date of the crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea was getting closer and closer. Just as everyone thought that Zhu Qingzhu would lead the army of martial artists to the South Sea to attack the Ning clan in the South Sea, suddenly, a shocking attack occurred in a coastal city in the South Zhongzhou. A terrifying plague killed more than 100,000 people. One of Zhu Qingzhu's wives was building a castle in this city to take in all the orphans in the South Zhongzhou. After the plague, everyone in the castle died, including Zhu Qingzhu's third wife. Then, the evil ways of infiltration claimed responsibility for this incident. They also announced that if Zhu Qingzhu did not stop the crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea, more plagues would break out in Zhongjing. Therefore, the crusade against the Ning clan in the South Sea was temporarily stopped. The entire Zhongzhou was focused on eliminating the remaining forces of the evil ways of infiltration in Zhongzhou and preventing the outbreak of plagues in Zhongjing. Just like that, the terrible plagues continued to break out. Although the scale was small, more than 10,000 people died each time. Often, villages disappeared one after another. Suddenly, the entire Zhongzhou was in a state of panic. Many people even began to flee Zhongjing. This was because the evil ways of infiltration said that they would carry out the largest plague attack in Zhongjing. Until one day in the middle of the night, someone, an expert from the Central Prefecture's Heavenly Law Union, intercepted an extremely fast warship 300 miles away from the Central Prefecture's Western Sea region. There was a horrifying corpse on the warship, which was covered with countless horrifying bugs. Then, in the sky west of Zhongjing, a demon vulture warrior was intercepted. This demon vulture warrior was carrying a jade coffin. Inside the coffin was a terrifying corpse. The corpse was covered with countless terrifying bugs. After some research, the bugs on the corpse were the source of the horror. The fast warship came from the Cloud Sky Pavilion. The fast demon vulture came from the Earth-Splitting City. Evil ways of infiltration used crystal warships and demon vulture warriors to drop plague corpses. No wonder they were everywhere. Suddenly, all the spearheads were pointed at the earth-splitting city and the cloud sky pavilion. Then, when the evil ways of infiltration were eliminated, they seized a list that was not burned. There were 2 names on it. One was Hewan X, the other was Yunjun X. The last word of the 2 names was burned. But everyone could see that the first name was Hewan Qing, and the second name was Yunjunu. Who was Hewan Qing? She was Kuei Si's wife and Kuei Ning's mother. Yunjunu, of course, knew better. She was Yun Kailan's illegitimate daughter. In the list of evil ways of infiltration, these 2 names appeared. That meant that these 2 people were infiltrators of evil ways. Suddenly, all the spearheads were pointed at the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Earth-splitting city. The Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Earth-splitting city became the cause of the plague. They became the culprits that killed millions of innocent people in Zhongzhou. So, countless family members of the victims began to gather in Zhongjing, shouting loudly. Destroy the earth-splitting city, destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Execute Hewan Qing, execute Yun Zhenu. Then, the leaders of the forces in Zhongzhou also began to publicly call for internal control before external control. Send troops to the earth-splitting city, send troops to the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Execute Hewan Qing, execute Yun Zhenu. Suddenly, Zhu Qingzhu's plan, which had been planned for a few months, finally came to fruition. Destroy the earth-splitting city, destroy the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Monopolize the entire Yingzhou continent, obtain the Demon Vulture Army, and obtain the crystal warships. And this was Zhu Qingzhu's plan from the beginning. It was also something that he had discussed with Li Ming. The western region belonged to Ning Wuming, and Zhongzhou belonged to Zhu Qingzhu. But Zhu Qingzhu coveted the western region. After he was badly injured, he took a turn and returned to his original position. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.